Jiang Fan's memory has been erased for the third time, and the demon monarch's motives are a mystery. With the hell creatures halted and the interlayer world crumbling, every alliance is fragile. Leave a like and subscribe to walk this treacherous path. It's already the third time someone has erased his memory. The first time was the heavenly listening Bodhisattva. The second time was Green Pearl. Each time the void ancient tree has blocked it, and this time is no exception. But he merely inquired about the whereabouts of Ling Shu and Liu Li, showing neither hostility nor friendliness, yet the demon monarch decisively erased his memory. It seems that there really is a problem with the two women. Since the other party erased his memory, he will just go with the flow and see what the situation is. The demon monarch withdrew the domain and looked at Jiang Fan's dazed expression, cautiously probing. "Wang Chengxiao, are you okay?" Jiang Fan said blankly. "Who is Wang Chengxiao? Me." The demon monarch continued to probe. "What, you don't even remember who you are?" Jiang Fan shook his head, furrowing his brows. "What's wrong with me? Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing?" The demon monarch finally relaxed. Good, a succession of 3 questions indicates successful memory deletion. There's really no way it could fail. A mere nascent soul realm cannot possibly block a divinity transformation venerable's domain, right? "You are a servant of our demon continent, now taking you to see our master." "Master." Jiang Fan's eyes flickered for a moment. He said without any change in expression, "All right." The demon monarch grabbed Jiang Fan's shoulder and used instantaneous movement to leave. Close to the spiritual Snake Mountain, Jiang Fan discovered the mountain range had suffered considerable damage. Countless palace caves had collapsed, with demon corpses and hell creature remnants everywhere. Swarms of the demon race had joined in cleaning the battlefield, but even so, manpower was seriously lacking. Many corpses had begun to rot and stink. This resulted in the golden, gleaming spirit Snake Mountain range being filled with stench and scattered corpses. It's not hard to imagine what a fierce battle erupted here after the interlayer world connected to the spirit Snake Mountain range. Jiang Fan's heart sank. Ling Shu and Liu Li couldn't be in trouble, could they? Shortly after, a cave dwelling hidden beneath the spirit Snake Mountain range. The cave dwelling was densely packed with tunnels connecting various parts of the spirit Snake Mountain. The terrain was intricate and complex. The demon monarch brought Jiang Fan, bowed respectfully in front of the cave dwelling. "Great Venerate, there's an important matter to report." An eerie voice came from the dim cave dwelling. "Did the golden scale Venerate die in the interlayer world?" The demon monarch lowered his head deeper. "Reporting to the great Venerate, no." He glanced at Jiang Fan and raised his hand to set up a barrier sealing Jiang Fan. Only then did he say, "This person came looking for the golden scale Venerate's daughter, and I discovered him in time." Jiang Fan was secretly astonished. Is there a great Venerate in this cave dwelling? It shouldn't be. The strong ones from various states have come to support the spirit Snake Mountain. There's no reason for the great Venerate of the spirit Snake Mountain to hide in the mountains and not come out right. Could it be that spirit Snake Mountain has 2 great Venerates? It's just unknown whether the great Venerate before him is Liu Li's father. Unfortunately, they're guarding against him, not letting him hear their conversation. Thinking about it, he secretly activated the mute Zen bead and exchanged a glance with the demon monarch. Next, what he wants to say and what he receives will first pass through his mind. Jiang Fan simply needs to guard his heart spirit, not producing thoughts, to secretly listen to their conversation. "Looking for the golden scale's daughter?" A silhouette stepped out from the darkness. To be exact, a half-human, half-snake great demon. The upper body was a tremendously burly human clan, with ink-black hair and eyes, the exposed chest muscles bulging. The lower body was a long black snake tail, its scales shimmering darkly in the faint light. His nape had a divine ring. Upon it were 5 flame marks. Jiang Fan secretly marveled. Already in the heavenly human 5 declines realm, yet still half-human, half-snake. In his impression, demons reaching nascent soul realm could completely transform into human clan. A demon emperor's daughter was born in human form. What's going on with this great Venerate before him? The great Venerate's black pupils stared at Jiang Fan, said, "What's his background?" The demon monarch said, "Claims to be from Taikang State, named Wang Chengxiao, ordered to go to the interlayer world to assist." Snake-tail Venerate's gaze narrowed. "Taikang State? Golden Scale's daughter came from Taikang State. This person indeed has a significant connection with Golden Scale's daughter. Luckily, he encountered you. If he met Golden Scale's people, the news of his daughter's return couldn't be concealed." The demon monarch nodded. This person represents Taikang's state, so I didn't dare kill him. Just temporarily erased his memory. Great Venerate, how do you plan to handle him? Snake-tail Venerate said indifferently. Of course, silence him. However, don't let him die here. Take him to the interlayer world and let him die reasonably among the hell creatures. The demon monarch nodded, smiling slightly. Great Venerate is wise. Just let him, in your name, kill more hell creatures and earn some credit, to contribute to your dominion over the spirit Snake Mountain. Then I'll remove the barrier, let Great Venerate personally assign him a mission. Saying this, he flicked a finger, removing the barrier. Jiang Fan decisively closed Mute Zen, his heart surging with difficult-to-hide agitation. Liu Li and Ling Shu came to Spirit Snake Mountain, but it seems they found the wrong Great Venerate, ending up in front of Liu Li's biological father, Golden Scale Venerate's archenemy. His heart was tumultuous. What did the Snake-tail Venerate do to Liu Li and Ling Shu? Did he kill them? Probably not. Killing Liu Li yields him no benefit. Keeping her alive might help constrain Golden Scale Venerate at a critical time. Thinking of this, his heart finally steadied slightly. He couldn't help but sigh. Where there are people, there is the world. Demons are no exception. He must find a way to contact Golden Scale Venerate and inform him about Liu Li. Otherwise, he alone, trying to rescue people from a heavenly human 5 declines demon Great Venerate, is nearly impossible. Wang Xiao, you are my servant. Now go to the interlayer world, try to slay hell creatures as much as possible, make sure they don't escape. Snake-tail Venerate said indifferently. Jiang Fan snorted coldly in his heart, thinking of borrowing a knife to kill. Is he so easy to use? His eyes flashed as he showed a contemplating expression. Great Venerate, I am human clan, you are demon race. Why would I be your servant? The demon monarch furrowed his brows, suspiciously observing Jiang Fan. But it's not strange. Some overly cautious individuals maintain strong rational capacity even after memory deletion. Snake-tail Venerate said indifferently. You're doubting my words? An intent to kill danced in his eyes. If not for Jiang Fan's identity as a Taikang state envoy, inconvenient to kill directly, how could he engage in unnecessary speech? Jiang Fan bowed. Junior does not dare, only Junior remembers nothing. Without proof, I dare not heed orders blindly. Snake-tail Venerate laughed angrily but had to suppress his temper. He sensed briefly, detecting Jiang Fan's heavenly thunder stone, immediately conceiving a plan. The fingers he kept behind his back gently flicked, causing a scale to silently fall into Jiang Fan's heavenly thunder stone. See if on your body there's a scale of mine. Jiang Fan certainly noticed changes in the heavenly thunder stone. Feigning ignorance, he opened the heavenly thunder stone, extracted the scale, and matched it against the Snake-tail Venerate's aura, then bowed respectfully. Master, I truly am your servant, Snake-tail Venerate said. Then go immediately to the interlayer world. Jiang Fan nodded. Yes, Master. Yet he did not leave immediately, instead hesitating. Master, I remember nothing, not even cultivation techniques, magic artifacts, or talismans. That interlayer world must be very dangerous, right? Wouldn't it be very dangerous for me to go like this? Venerable frowned. How could he have amnesia and still know how to ask for benefits? Before losing his memory, how slick must this guy have been? After considering briefly, to avoid further complications, he opened his mouth, revealing 2 sharp snake fangs. He squeezed the jade bottle onto one of the fangs, allowing a trace of purple viscous liquid to drip into the jade bottle. This is my venom. Although it's only a drop, it can kill any strong being below the heavenly human 5 declines. Take it! Jiang Fan grabbed it, his heart pounding wildly. He just wanted to extort some benefits casually. How could he have imagined the other party would give out such a treasure? He was an expert in using poison. Beside him, the demon monarch watched with eyes full of heat. This is the Venerable's life essence venom, a great killing device. Even he hadn't received such a reward, yet the Venerable gave it to Wang Xiao. This made the demon monarch feel envious and at the same time incomprehensible. At this moment, a voice reached his ear from the Venerable. You timely discovered this person, your merit is undeniable. That drop of venom will be rewarded to you. Only then did the demon monarch suddenly realize. The venom was meant for him. It's just that he needs to find a way to get it from Jiang Fan. His eyes flashed with a cold and fierce expression. If so, then he must keep a close watch on Wang Xiao. Wang Xiao, follow me. Gaining the benefit, Jiang Fan naturally hesitated no longer and immediately followed the demon monarch out of the cavern. On the way, Jiang Fan's eyes flashed and he probed. Senior, I forgot how to address your excellency and you. The demon monarch glanced at the heavenly thunderstone on Jiang Fan's chest and smiled kindly. Our venerable is the master of spiritual Snake Mountain, the Black Dragon Venerable. As for me, you may call me Soul Shadow Venerable. Jiang Fan nodded slightly, cupping his hands. Senior Soul Shadow, why is everyone going to the interlayer world, but your excellency doesn't? It makes no sense for Golden Scale Venerable and the strong from various states to be fighting to the death in the interlayer world. Even the Great Wine Sacrifice is stationed in the interlayer world. Yet the Black Dragon Venerable is resting peacefully in the cavern. How could the strong from various states be willing? Soul Shadow Venerable pondered a moment before speaking. Our Black Dragon Venerable is currently transforming into a dragon and is not convenient to act. Transforming into a dragon? Jiang Fan was utterly confused. Soul Shadow Venerable patiently explained. Martial artists of different schools enter the Great Sage Realm in different ways. Moreover, between different clans, your human clan emphasizes cultivating merit to enter the sage, while our demon race emphasizes ancestral empowerment. Jiang Fan pondered. He recalled what heavenly listening Bodhisattva said, that Buddhist practitioners entering the Buddha Venerable realm do not focus on establishing merit. Rather, they focus on the creation for all beings. For instance, prison-suppressing soul scripture, calming resentful spirits is a kind of creation for all beings. Yet in Jiang Fan's view, it is still a form of merit. Because after he personally applied the prison-suppressing soul scripture, merit descended from the heavens. Only, establishing merit gains the faith of the living, while prison-suppressing soul scripture gains the faith of dead spirits. Both reach the same goal by different means. But the demon race entering the Great Sage Realm is indeed a completely different path. It is ancestral empowerment. So-called ancestral empowerment should be continuously raising the purity of the bloodline within, ultimately reaching the level of the ancestral true spirit. Thus, succeeding in ancestral empowerment, transforming into a true spirit. The Black Dragon Venerable has half his body regressing into a snake tail. It must be at a crucial point of ancestral empowerment. Once the upper body also regresses, he can become a true spirit in the Great Sage Realm. Jiang Fan nodded slowly. This trip to the demon continent was quite eye-opening. Soul Shadow Venerable said, once in the interlayer world, kill the enemy well. After discussions among the demons of spiritual Snake Mountain, it's decided to bring out the mountain's treasure, 10,000 spirits' ancestor blood as a reward. Whoever has the most merit will have a chance to get 10,000 spirits' ancestor blood. This blood can enhance the bloodline power of all demons. Our master, if he obtains enough of the 10,000 spirits' ancestor blood, will have the opportunity to complete the final ancestral empowerment, completely transforming into a dragon. At that time, you and I shall reach dazzling success. He painted a grand vision for Jiang Fan, ensuring that Jiang Fan would become fervent and rush towards the hell creatures, then rationally die among them. Oh, Jiang Fan's eyes revealed a look of astonishment, enhancing the bloodline power of all demons. The heavenly fox bloodline of fairy Yun Shang, the soaring snake bloodline within Liu Li, the unknown bloodline of the ice and fire demon lord, and the bloodlines of the little Kirin, the rebellious guy, the little tiger Biluo Huanquan, the slave heart demon emperor, Chayu Fairy, and the West Sea crown prince, can all be enhanced. This 10,000 spirits ancestor blood is a great treasure. He immediately felt a surge of enthusiasm and said, Senior, rest assured, your subordinate will dedicate everything, even to the point of giving my life for the master. Soul Shadow Venerable touched his nose. Is the pie he drew really so enticing? Not long after, in the center of the Spirit Snake Mountain Range, a gigantic fissure nearly split the mountain range in two. An overwhelming yin qi erupted from within the mountains, shrouding the area as if it were night. As soon as he stepped inside, the yin qi drilled into his dantian through his pores, attempting to envelop his nascent soul, obstructing the flow of energy. Jiang Fan circulated his nascent soul power, barely breaking it apart. He was secretly astonished. The density of yin qi here was even stronger than that of the underground world of the heavenly mechanism pavilion. For those not in the nascent soul realm, it would be difficult to linger for long. At this moment, 3 enormous creatures as black as ink charged out from the fissure. 2 of them were 9 aperture nascent soul level. In the middle, there was even one at the divinity transformation realm. Not to mention Jiang Fan, even Soul Shadow Venerable was startled, exclaiming, a hell creature at the divinity transformation realm. How is this possible? 10 days ago, even when Jinlin Venerate and Ice Heart Venerate joined forces, they couldn't stop the massive tide of hell creatures from charging out. That time caused huge casualties. Spirit Snake Mountain paid a heavy price in casualties to kill all the hell creatures that poured out. But that time, no hell creatures at the Divinity Transformation Realm emerged. And now a Divinity Transformation Realm creature has appeared. Could it be that the dangers in the interlayer world have worsened with the reinforcements from the experts of various states? Soul Shadow Venerable instinctively wanted to retreat, but after a thought he said, "Wang Xianxia, I will hold off this Divinity Transformation Realm hell creature. The 2-9 aperture nascent souls are up to you, don't let the master down." Jiang Fan sneered inwardly. For a martial artist of the human clan with atorifious nascent soul cultivation, even facing 1-9 aperture nascent soul hell creature would be a matter of life and death. Facing 2, there's no possible path of survival. Soul Shadow Venerable wants to use the hell creatures to kill him. He must be planning to seize the venom in his heavenly thunder stone after his death, right? He pretended to show a look of panic and said, "But I forgot the cultivation technique. With only the venom, it's a sure death." Soul Shadow Venerable pretended not to hear, rushed forward, blocking the Divinity Transformation Realm hell creature with the tiger-like silhouette, and engaged it elsewhere, leaving Jiang Fan no chance to call for help. Jiang Fan could not ask for more. This was a good chance to shake off Soul Shadow Venerable. Roar! A hell creature, thousands of feet long, resembling a ferocious worm, came howling towards Jiang Fan. Without a second thought, Jiang Fan unleashed a soul-shocking stab. In an instant, the soul of the hell creature was pierced, writhing in agony on the spot. "Go!" Jiang Fan joined his fingers to form a sword, the purple thunder unsheathed. Purple lightning gathered around the sword body, transforming into a dazzling sword shadow that sliced through its head. The other hell creature, seeing Jiang Fan's ferocity, was so frightened that it tried to flee. "Cloud Shadow?" Jiang Fan swiftly caught up, leaping onto its back. Gathering a point of thunderbolt origin in his palm, he struck it. With a puff, the hell creature's head was blown into a blood mist by the thunderbolt origin on the spot. Boom, the massive body of the hell creature fell to the ground with a thunderous crash. Jiang Fan, expressionless, summoned back the purple thunder, just as he was about to move swiftly towards the fissure. A slightly surprised ethereal voice drifted into his ear. "Such domineering techniques!" Jiang Fan was startled. Someone was nearby, and he hadn't sensed it at all. Turning his head, he saw someone standing there. Someone who looked like a perfect beauty from a dual world. Her ink-black dress floated gracefully, her long black hair cascaded like a waterfall, and her fair face was carved with features of breathtaking beauty. Even though the women around him were all considered beauties, the woman before his eyes still gave him a heart-stirring sensation of beauty. What shocked Jiang Fan the most was that this woman had a divine ring at the back of her head, with no less than 5 flame marks on it. 5 declines, only 20 years old, not much older than Jiang Fan by a year or two. Jiang Fan was shocked. How did she cultivate to this level? Having seen the Star Mountain Master in her 30s, Jiang Fan thought she was already quite extraordinary. Ordinary people need extremely long years to break through to the Divinity Transformation realm. Among the Divinity Transformation Venerables in Taikang State, aside from the true word Venerable at 25 or 6 years old, which one isn't middle-aged and older? Yet the woman before him had already cultivated to the level of human supreme at the age of 20. At this moment, he truly felt what it meant to have people beyond people and heavens beyond heavens. He immediately cupped his hands and said, "Junior Wang Xianxia greets Senior Wang Xianxia." The woman murmured softly, "There really are a lot of people with that name lately. Wait here for a moment." She vanished on the spot. A moment later, a heartrending scream echoed from the horizon. Then she returned, accompanied by a Soul Shadow Venerable with a face full of awe. The woman said, "You too have good strength, especially you Wang Xianxia. You have potential. It would be a pity for you to die inside. Follow closely behind me, don't stray far." With a great venerate as protection, how could Jiang Fan refuse? He hurriedly expressed his gratitude. "Thank you, Senior. May I ask your name?" "I am the Ice Heart Venerate from Holy Spirit State," the fairy-clad woman spoke without turning her head. Jiang Fan remembered the name and quickly followed. Soul Shadow Venerable glanced at the 2 hell creature corpses on the ground, furrowing his brow. "This kid is really lucky, isn't he? I thought he was already dead. Didn't expect he'd encounter Ice Heart Venerate and be saved." He stared at Jiang Fan's back, eyes cold. "No rush, there's plenty of chances to get you killed inside." Under the guidance of Ice Heart Venerate, Jiang Fan stepped into the rift. This rift led directly to the depths underground. Yin Qi surged outward like an erupting volcano. Hell creatures occasionally ran out, only to be effortlessly exterminated by Ice Heart Venerate. Jiang Fan asked, "Ice Heart Senior, what's the situation in the interlayer world now?" Despite being a great venerate of the heavenly human 5 declines, Ice Heart Venerate had no heirs. Patiently she replied, 10 days ago, the great wine sacrifice failed to seal the entrance of the interlayer world, and a large number of hell creatures charged out. In these past days, strong leaders from various states have come to assist, driving the hell creatures towards the exit. They're fiercely counterattacking. The divinity transformation hell creature from earlier was just a lucky escape from the encirclement. Jiang Fan's pupils quivered. In his mind, the great wine sacrifices from each state were enigmatic beings, capable of contending with sages. And yet, they failed to seal the entrance. Is there something in the interlayer world that even the great wine sacrifice couldn't handle? Ice Heart Venerate continued, "Now our strong leaders from Central Earth are divided into 3 routes, east, south, and west, to push back the hell creatures. The young emperor is responsible for the south route, while I lead a portion of the strong leaders for the east route, and Golden Scale Venerate leads a portion for the west route." Jiang Fan was puzzled and asked, "Is the young emperor alone?" Ice Heart Venerate nodded lightly. "He doesn't need anyone else. He's handling the south route alone, and it's advancing the fastest among the 3 routes." Jiang Fan was quite taken aback. The young emperor, on his own, was causing the hell creature army in one direction to retreat step by step. The speed is faster than the Central Earth Coalition forces on the east and west routes. Even though they're all heavenly human 5 declines, the young emperor is far stronger than Ice Heart Venerate and Golden Scale Venerate, isn't he? Ice Heart Venerate calmly stated, "The young emperor is the strongest of the heavenly human 5 declines in Central Earth. He cultivates the thunder path that restrains hell creatures. Naturally, it's dominant. It's perfectly normal for me and Golden Scale Venerate to fall short in some aspects. The strongest of the heavenly human 5 declines." Jiang Fan felt a heaviness in his heart. Is the young emperor really that strong? Our east route must not lag too far behind, otherwise, if the young emperor dashes in alone, he might be surrounded. As Ice Heart Venerate spoke, she led them to the depths below. They landed on a broken cliff. Looking afar, a vast and boundless black land came into view. On the ground, the hellish creatures resemble a tide, stretching endlessly into the horizon. They pour forth continuously from the depths. Below the cliff, hundreds of experts from the demon race and human clan form a defensive line, firmly resisting the onslaught of the hellish creatures. This scene, how similar it is to the past at Boundary Mountain. The difference is that the current hellish creatures not only number endless, but are far more ferocious than the demon race. As he lamented, a nascent soul realm fairy was pierced through the chest by a red beam and then devoured by the hellish creatures, leaving no remains. And similar scenes occur repeatedly. Jiang Fan clenched his fists tightly. These were the main forces to resist the ancient giants shortly after, yet they all died tragically here. Who exactly unleashed this hellish creature horde? At this moment, ore of destruction reappeared in the depths of the hellish creature tide. Ice Heart Venerate narrowed his eyes and said, "Another divinity transformation realm hellish creature is coming. You should join the defensive line too, but act according to your ability and don't force yourself." With that said, he flashed and departed. Jiang Fan couldn't wait to fly down. Soul Shadow Venerable sighed slightly. Finally, the meddlesome person left. Next, just wait for Jiang Fan to die at the mouths of the hellish creatures. He pointed at the sky and said, "Wang Chengxiao, don't be afraid. Kill as many hellish creatures as possible to get enough rewards." Jiang Fan looked up, seeing numerous crystals floating in the sky, recording the battle scene in its entirety. Afterward, the crystal recordings will be replayed to assess achievements. But now, Jiang Fan had no mind to care about achievements. Without acknowledging him, he dove straight down. At a certain point of the defensive line, Jiang Wuya held the sword box, flicking his fingers, and rays of multicolored sword light shot out. Wherever they passed, all the hellish creatures were sliced into equally sized chunks. Behind him were the nascent soul experts from the 7 schools of the 3-god sect of Taikang State. They were uniformly atorifious nascent soul. Taikang State is unlike other states with plentiful powerhouses. Every atorifious nascent soul is an extremely precious combat power for Taikang State, and losing even one would be a great pity. Taikang State dispatched 10 atorifious nascent souls, showing just how great the support was. Yet even with Jiang Wuya, the divinity transformation venerable, at the helm, their situation was far from favorable. Song Lingyu's face turned slightly pale, showing signs of power deficiency. What's going on? Why are there more and more hellish creatures? As the battle continued, their defensive line not only failed to advance but rather retreated further back. Jiang Wuya said calmly, "It's the young emperor. As he advances north, the hellish creatures from his direction scatter to the east and west. That's why we're facing more and more hellish creatures." The nascent soul experts of Taikang State had grim expressions. Their team was at the very center of the defensive line, facing the most ferocious hellish creatures. Now, with the pressure increasing tremendously, their situation was precarious. The hellish creatures have high spiritual wisdom, and sensing an opportunity, charged even more recklessly. Even worse, a few 9-aperture nascent soul-level hellish creatures quietly approached the front line, hidden among the beast tide. When Jiang Wuya launched an attack, they seized the moment to suddenly jump out, each spraying red hazardous beams toward different experts. They intended to break through at Taikang State, tearing a gap in the defensive line. Jiang Wuya's expression changed, saying, "Be careful." He waved his sleeve, dispersing several red beams. But there was still one that slipped through, heading towards the old woman of Great Yin sect's atorifice nascent soul. The beam came too fast, leaving no time to react. The next moment she was pierced through the chest by the red beam. The face of Song Lingyu beside her changed drastically as she caught the old woman in her arms, exclaiming, "Senior Yunzun!" Yet, by catching her, she fell right into the hellish creature's trap. A lurking 9-aperture nascent soul hellish creature suddenly launched a red beam towards Song Lingyu. In an instant, Song Lingyu was enveloped by the beam. Her heart skipped a beat. A deadly heat surged towards her. But just as she was about to meet the same fate as Yunzun, a matchless thunder sword came slicing from behind, extinguishing the scarlet beam right before her. The thunder sword extinguished the red beam, its momentum unabated, slashing fiercely into the group of hell creatures. Under the power of thunder, the hell creatures were utterly powerless. Their bodies exploded in the thunderblast, releasing all their yin qi. In an instant, an entire area of hell creatures was cleared away. The 9-aperture nascent soul hell creature that had ambushed was also scorched by the thunder sword, screaming as it retreated. Everyone was shocked and looked back. Isn't that the undying blade from the 10,000 Tribulations' holy temple? Could it be that someone from the 10,000 Tribulations' holy temple has come to assist? Song Lingyu also turned her head in surprise, but what met her eyes was the unfamiliar face of a middle-aged man. "Who are you?" Song Lingyu asked in astonishment. This undying blade is cultivated to a level of perfection, and there are not many in the 10,000 Tribulations' holy temple who reach this step. Jiang Fan said sternly, "Don't get distracted, the hell creatures are still increasing." In just that brief moment, the void created by the undying blade was immediately filled with other hell creatures. He decisively wielded the Tingsu sword. With one slash, the astonishing coldness froze a patch of hell creatures. Then the sword chi crisscrossed and sliced them into ice blocks. Then the purple thunder emerged, sweeping across with an all-slashing purple electrical light, clearing another area. Finally, the green frost sword was unsheathed, wielding dense green afterimages like tree roots, piercing one hell beast after another. The three swords together emptied 1,000 meters around Taikang State. This scene left the people of Taikang State dumbfounded. Song Lingyu had a look of questioning life. He is an atorifice nascent soul, then what am I? The fellow atorifice nascent souls present were also bewildered. The same atorifice nascent soul, but the gap is bigger than between humans and dogs. Estimating their whole family combined isn't worth these three swords. Even Jiang Wuya couldn't help exclaiming in surprise, 3 top-grade spirit swords and all with artifact spirits. Since when did Taikang State have such a high expert? This scene also caught the attention of strong individuals from surrounding states. The 3 swords advanced like a blender, sweeping everything before them, clearing the hell creatures in front of Taikang State. Who started the rumor that Taikang State has no strong individuals? Even an atorifice nascent soul is so fierce. Wouldn't a divinity transformation realm be defying the heavens? Hearing this, Jiang Wuya felt ashamed. His eyes turned sharp as well. With strong support for Taikang State, how could I retreat? He leaped forward, holding the sword box with sword intent like meteors traversing through the beast tide. Song Lingyu and others were also inspired, mustering their spirits, following Jiang Wuya and Jiang Fan to crush the hell creatures. For a moment, The defensive line held by Taikang State actually advanced. However, only they moving forward means nothing. Because once there's a gap behind them, the hell creatures from the left and right would seize the opportunity to surge forward. Some would surround Jiang and the others from behind, while others would attack the flanks of the other two states' defenses, eventually leading to the collapse of the entire defense line. More troublesome is that with the young emperor pushing north from the south, more and more hell creatures are flooding over. After 2 hours, Jiang Fan's nascent soul power had less than 30% remaining, and his strength was gradually depleting. His body was covered in black blood, looking like a blood-soaked figure. He lost count of how many hell creatures he had killed, only knowing that the overall defense line not only did not advance but was retreating. His personal strength is indeed strong, but in such a large-scale battle, it's just a drop in the ocean. This is something even the heavenly human 5 declines Great Venerate couldn't stop alone. What can Jiang Fan do? All he can do now is resist as much as possible, hoping the Great Wine Sacrifice and the 3 Great Venerate can seal the gap soon. Be careful, there's a divinity transformation realm. Bang! On the right were demon cultivators from the Great Wilderness State, led by the Red Dust Venerable of the heavenly human 2 declines. She was leading demon cultivators, struggling to maintain their position. A terrifyingly powerful divinity transformation realm hell creature secretly infiltrated the beast tide, reaching the front line. By the time the Red Dust Venerable noticed, she was already ambushed. Her right shoulder along with her arm were all severed by sharp claws. A seemingly ordinary double-headed hellhound stepped forward with a playful expression, babbling in the hell language. Finally diverted that terrifying woman. Now we can leave the underground world. Jiang Fan's heart trembled. It turned out the divinity transformation realm aura detected by the Ice Heart Venerate earlier was a diversion. The purpose was to buy this hell 2-headed dog a chance to escape from underground. Its ability to injure the Red Dust Venerable of the heavenly human 2 declines speaks for its unquestionable power. At least it is of the heavenly human 2 declines level. The Red Dust Venerable, aware of the grave danger, shouted anxiously, "Can't hold on any longer. Great Wilderness State people retreat, don't make unnecessary sacrifices." Upon hearing this, the faces of people from all states changed. If the Great Wilderness State withdraws, those who hold their ground will be surrounded by hell creatures from behind. They came to support the demon continent, not to risk their lives. Thus, strong individuals from various states wavered. Jiang Fan inwardly knew it was bad. They could easily retreat, but with such a massive number of hell creatures rushing out from underground, the operations on the West Road and South Road would fail. The plan to repel the hell creatures would completely fall through. The direct consequence would be the gap in the interlayer world can no longer be sealed. Hell creatures would pour out endlessly until they occupy the entire demon continent. The ancient giant hasn't even arrived, and Central Earth would already lose a state. Not to mention, Ling Shu and Liu Li, already missing, would face even greater danger. "We Taikang State retreat too," Jiang Wuya reluctantly decided, but he also had to consider the strong individuals from the 3 God sect, 7 great teachings. If other states withdrew, staying behind would be like smashing an egg against a rock. Jiang Fan's expression changed intensely. What should he do? Facing the hell creatures charging like a tidal wave, he felt a sense of despair. Even if a great venerate arrived, they might not be able to stop it. What can he do alone? These hell creatures are savage, with low spiritual wisdom and fear not death. Jiang Fan suddenly paused. The hell creatures indeed fear nothing, but there was one thing brought from the underground world of the heavenly mechanism pavilion that they should fear, right? That is, an item of the Hell Realm Master, the Hell Soul Bell. Previously, when a nascent Soul Realm Hell 2-headed dog wanted to devour Jiang Fan, it cowered and acknowledged him as its master upon seeing this bell. Thinking of this, Jiang Fan decisively took out the Hell Soul Bell. However, the hell creatures before him seemed unaware of the bell's presence, still surging forward. After thinking for a moment, he shook the bell. A piercingly shrill bell sound emanated, radiating in all directions. The fierce hell creatures all suddenly stopped when they heard this sound, a look of terror appearing in their eyes. Their massive bodies trembled, constantly looking around for the source of the sound. The vast battlefield, countless beast tides as the bell's sound spread, was like ice poured into boiling water, instantly calming down. Venerable clutched his severed arm, his face filled with astonishment. What happened? Why did they suddenly stop moving? The strong warriors from various states who were preparing to retreat were also filled with confusion. The hell creatures were fearless and relentless, and not even the heavenly human five declines great venerate himself could stop their massive charge outward. There's no reason for them to suddenly come to a halt. The hell two-headed dog of the divinity transformation realm perked its ears, astonishment showing in its eyes. Clearly, it had heard the sound of the bell. It also knew what it was. However, having just glimpsed the opportunity to breach the defensive line and return to the surface, how could they give up? It stifled its fear and let out a long howl to the sky. Do not stop, keep moving forward. Intimidated by its authority, the halted hell creatures began to step forward again, launching a new sprint. Jiang Fan saw this. He decisively performed the no-self dust cleansing technique, entering an invisibility state. Then he quietly shook the hell soul bell. Clang, the piercing sound of the bell had no special effect on the human clan and the demon race. To their ears, it sounded like the grating of metal. But to the hell creatures, it carried an indescribable sense of majesty. The hell creature army, which had just started moving, once again halted uneasily. The hell two-headed dog angrily roared, "Charge quickly, don't stop!" The hell creatures were just about to move when Jiang Fan shook the bell again, scaring them into immobility. "Charge, clang, clang, all charge! Clang, clang, clang! Charge quickly! Clang, 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 clang!" Finally, the hell two-headed dog reached its breaking point. Raising its two dog heads, it roared in frustration. "Which bastard is it? Have the guts to duel with us? Duel us!" But the only response was Jiang Fan continuously shaking the hell soul bell. The hell two-headed dog, boiling with rage, tried to perk up its dog ears to locate the source of the sound. But alas, the battlefield was incredibly chaotic. And the one shaking the hell soul bell was even more elusive than him, constantly changing positions. It was completely impossible to determine the direction. Moreover, he was shaking it with increasing enthusiasm. As the sound of the bell echoed endlessly, the hell creatures finally felt intense unease and began to retreat. Initially, it was those closest to the hell soul bell, and soon the panic spread, and the surrounding hell creatures also began to retreat, until large groups of hell creatures turned and fled. No matter how the hell two-headed dog barked orders, it could no longer stop them. The scene before them perfectly illustrated the image of a routed army collapsing like an avalanche. Seeing the hell creatures retreat, Jiang Fan put away the hell soul bell, then quietly removed his disguise, tugging on the clothes of the dazed Jiang Wuya, softly saying, "What are you waiting for? Go claim the credit." Jiang Wuya snapped out of his daze as if waking from a dream, rolled up his sleeve, and enveloped the people of Taikang State as they pursued. Spiritual Snake Mountain had promised quite a few benefits. Even without achieving the first merit, they could still exchange their kills for corresponding resources. Song Lingyu came to her senses, her eyes shining brightly as she said, "Don't run. If you run, who will I look for to repay my debt to Jiang Fan?" With the rare opportunity for an impressive reward, she needed to seize the chance to exchange for a few sky-ascending pills to settle her debt with Jiang Fan. Then she could redeem her poor disciple. Thus, she leaped out, chasing the hell creatures relentlessly, unafraid of using her energy to hunt them down. For a while, she even killed more than Jiang Wuya, who was in the divinity transformation realm. Jiang Fan slowly nodded. "It seems people can't be too comfortable. They need some debt to be motivated." Having said that, he joined in the pursuit. The hell creatures, preoccupied with escaping for their lives, dared not stop even with pursuers behind them, only making symbolic counterattacks while fleeing. Thus, he unleashed his full potential, pursuing them vigorously. The hell two-headed dog, seething with anger, was about to charge forward and tear apart the people of Taikang State. But the strong warriors from the other 8 states also reacted. All of them, their eyes turning red, charged with a roar. Several divinity transformation venerables locked onto it, intending to decapitate it for credit. Terrified, the hell two-headed dog decisively turned and fled, retreating with the hell creatures toward the breach. Deeper within the beast tide, Iceheart Venerate raised her sword, swiftly cutting down a divinity transformation realm hell creature hidden within the beast tide. Her willow-like eyebrows lightly furrowed as she gazed at the opening and the hell creatures continuously flooding from the south. She felt a sense of powerlessness rising in her heart. The breach probably can't be closed. At that moment, her sleeve gently vibrated. A golden scale flew out from her sleeve. This was a scale given to her and the young emperor by Golden Scale Venerate. The mutual sensing between the scales allowed them to communicate in real time in the underground world, grasping the movements of various parties. The scale emitted a flash of golden light, projecting into the air the images of Golden Scale Venerate, the young emperor, and their surroundings. Golden Scale Venerate floated helplessly behind a group of spiritual Snake Mountain's demon race. The demons were fighting desperately against the seemingly endless beast-tide army, despite their life-or-death battle to protect their homeland behind them. They still couldn't stop the wash of the beast tide, and the defensive line was on the verge of breaking at any moment. Golden Scale Venerate could sweep away a large part of the beast tide with one hand, but it would soon be filled by the hell creatures again. Ice Heart Venerate, how is the situation on your side? Ice Heart Venerate gently shook her head, saying, I'm deep within the beast tide, but the situation shouldn't be good. The defensive line is likely breached by now. Hearing this, Golden Scale Venerate sighed softly. This was within his expectations. The spiritual Snake Mountain's demon race, as the people of this state, fought desperately but couldn't stop the decline. The heroes from the outer state certainly wouldn't fight to the death, and the breach in the defensive line was within his expectations. In another projection, it showed the young emperor pointing a finger at the fleeing beast tide ahead. A thunderbolt origin flew into the beast tide, exploding instantly, transforming into endless thunder light, swallowing up a vast expanse of land. When the thunder light dissipated, only fragments and wreckage remained, steaming ominously. The hell creatures were utterly annihilated. The young emperor swept his gaze over the battlefields of the two, saying indifferently, Once my south road is cleared, there's nothing more for me to do here. Upon hearing this, Golden Scale Venerate was filled with embarrassment, and even Ice Heart Venerate felt somewhat awkward. One led the demon race army, the other commanded the reinforcements from various states. Under such circumstances, they still faced collapsing defensive lines. Yet the young emperor alone had driven the hell creatures all the way back to the breach. The invisible comparison left the Heavenly Human 5 Decline's members feeling uneasy. But just then, Ice Heart Venerate suddenly looked down at the beast tide below, showing a hint of surprise. What happened? Looking intently, the beast tide surging in one direction began to gradually stop. Very soon they started turning back toward the breach, and with expressions of panic, constantly wailing in fear as if fleeing from something terrifying. Golden Scale Venerate also noticed this scene, exclaiming in surprise, Ice Heart Venerate, could there be powerful reinforcements from the outer state? Ice Heart Venerate shook her head, saying, No, the latest reinforcement is an atorifious nascent soul from Taikang State. Moreover, what kind of reinforcements could scare away the entire east road of hell creatures? A sage, perhaps. Scale Venerate lit up, but then he shook his head again. Among the sages left in Central Earth, none can move freely. Either they're injured or there's some special situation limiting their actions. But aside from a sage taking action, who else could frighten away all the hell creatures of the East Road? Not to mention him. Even the young emperor had stopped pursuing the hell creatures and paused to look at the projection of the Ice Heart Venerate. Under the gaze of the three great Venerates, after half a cup of tea's time, the endless beast tide finally reached its end. Their gaze focused, looking behind the beast tide to see exactly who it was. However, the scene before them left the three experiencing the Heavenly Human 5 Declines in silence. They saw a woman in palace attire, panting heavily as she chased the hell creatures, shouting, Brother hell creatures ahead, you dropped your money. The running hell creatures turned back with a fierce glare at her, as if saying, Do you take us for fools? The pursuit had left everyone in Taikang State exhausted, gradually unable to keep up with the escape speed of the hell creatures. They could only think of ways to make them stop. Jiang Fan also took a deep breath. After non-stop slaughter for half a cup of tea, he couldn't count how many he'd killed. He only knew that his entire body was depleted of strength, his hands trembling. He couldn't even wield his 3 top-grade spirit swords. Seeing the beast tide about to reach the rift, he knew he had to kill now or it would be too late. He opened his mouth and spoke in the hell language. Brother ahead, your damn thing fell off. A few of the running hell creatures instinctively tightened their legs and slowed down. Jiang Fan seized the chance to rush forward, gathering his last thread of thunder power into a hell lotus and threw it among them. With a booming explosion, 3 hell creatures were blasted upside down on the spot. With open mouths, they gurgled hell language. Apparently, it was a cordial and friendly greeting to Jiang Fan. Awaiting them were the strong from Taikang State, who rushed forward together, obliterating their corpses and bones under wild bombardment. The three great venerates stood in astonishment. The golden scale venerate's eyelids twitched as he said, "Is this a powerhouse from the heavenly state?" "There, quite distinctive." The young emperor's speech was faster than usual. "Not from our heavenly state." The Ice Heart Venerate looked at Jiang Fan's middle-aged face, somewhat speechless. A person of such age, yet still so improper. However, she still couldn't understand why the hell creatures scrambled in panic. Could it be that someone had done something to instill fear in the hell creatures? Her gaze fell back on Jiang Fan, thinking, it must be his doing. The only variable in the defense line is his presence. But she did not speak out. A single person's power driving endless hell creatures was an alarming event across Central Earth. It could easily attract attention from those with intentions who might want to control the hell creatures through him. Moreover, he only possessed an atorifious nascent soul, akin to a child flaunting a golden ingot. She calmly said to the young emperor and the golden scale venerate, "Let's not worry about why the hell creatures mutated for now. The priority is to quell the chaos. Golden scale venerate, hold the west road. Once we clear the hell creatures on the east road, we'll come to assist you." The golden scale venerate's eyes showed a glimmer of hope. Finally, there was a ray of hope. He nodded and said, "Waiting for your good news." The Ice Heart Venerate put away the scales, closed the communication, and flew to Jiang Fan's side, accompanying him in driving away the hell creatures. "You're not called Wang Chengxiao, are you?" Lately, in the various states, the names Wang Chengxiao and Jiang Fan had sprung up like bamboo shoots after the rain. The main difference was, those impersonating Wang Chengxiao mostly did shady deeds and dared not show their true faces. Conversely, those claiming to be Jiang Fan often did righteous and proud deeds, proudly calling themselves Jiang Fan. The Wang Chengxiao in front of her was undoubtedly a fake name. Just not sure what dishonest deed he was about to do, impersonating Wang Chengxiao. Jiang Fan moved aside, keeping a distance from this terrifying heavenly human 5 declines, and politely said, "Senior, you are wise. Junior is the crown prince of the West Sea Demon clan in Taikang State." The Ice Heart Venerate nodded slightly. "West Sea Crown Prince, is it? Thanks to you this time, otherwise it would have been hard to resolve." She lightly flicked her sleeve. An ice butterfly flew out from the sleeve and landed on Jiang Fan's shoulder. "This is a magical treasure I crafted in my leisure time. Once activated, it can shield against domain influence. It can only be used 3 times, make good use of it. Is there such a good thing in the world?" Jiang Fan was overjoyed, quickly catching it, gratefully saying, "Thank you for the gift, Senior." Pausing, Jiang Fan asked again, "Besides the domain in Central Earth, can it also block the Giant King's source?" The Ice Heart Venerate pondered. "I've never tried, but the domain in Central Earth and the Giant King's source are both forms of heavenly power. Ultimately the same. It should also work." Jiang Fan cherished it even more. He remembered when he was cursed by the Luck Giant King, crashing through Green Pearl's bath. With the ice butterfly, at least he could avoid strange and unknown source manipulation. Jiang Wuya and other strong individuals from Taikang State frowned secretly. West Sea Crown Prince? Among them, although none had seen the West Sea Crown Prince, they knew the situation in the West Sea. Just an old demon emperor at the initial period realm holding the fort. Where did a late-stage nascent soul elder monster come from? Clearly, he was deceiving the Ice Heart Venerate. Thinking of this, Jiang Wuya secretly wiped a cold sweat. Good heavens, who is this person, really? Daring to fool a heavenly human 5 declines venerate, aren't they afraid of being exposed? In their bewilderment, the running speed of the hell creatures suddenly slowed down and became more crowded. Looking up. At the end of the underground world was a golden mountain mass, the underground extension of the spiritual Snake Mountain. On the mountain body was a 1,000 jang wide and 100 jang high black fissure. Endless yin qi gushed out like a flood from the fissure. The hell creatures crowded to squeeze back into the fissure, thus crowding near the fissure. "This place is the so-called rift, right?" Jiang Fan stared at the fissure, his eyes slowly narrowing. The shape of the fissure looked as if it had been torn open by a colossal claw, and such a claw he had seen once before. It was the demonic claw of the Usura Saint Sun. Furthermore, there should be a strong world barrier between the interlayer world and the demon continent. To tear apart the barrier and connect the 2 realms, only a sage or higher could possibly achieve that. "What are you looking at?" The Ice Heart Venerate noticed Jiang Fan suddenly stopping and couldn't help but ask. Jiang Fan thought for a moment. Since he finally had a chance to talk with a great venerate, he should ask some questions. Senior, may I ask how many sages have emerged in the past millennium? That Usura Saint son escaped from the underground world of the heavenly mechanism pavilion 800 years ago, so his ascension to sagehood should have happened within the last millennium. Heart Venerate was surprised, not understanding why Jiang Fan would ask about the sages. Jiang Fan was only at the atorifious nascent soul realm. Sages should be a very distant matter for him. After pondering for a moment, she patiently replied, "As far as I know, there are only 5. Jiang Fan was slightly shocked. First, he was surprised at the difficulty of entering the virtuous realm. In the past 1,000 years, the number of heavenly human 5 declines great venerate born in Central Earth might not be 100. But there should be dozens, right? However, among them, only 3 actually reached the virtuous realm. The difficulty of achieving merit is evident. Second is the excitement. There was finally a clue about the Usura Saint's son. He asked eagerly, "Could you please tell me who the sages are?" Ice Heart Venerate grew more puzzled, feeling as if Wang Xianxia was searching for someone. Suppressing her confusion, she answered, "They are Wanyan Sage, Dragon Flame Sage, Tianluo Sage, Ancient Zen Buddha Venerable, and Jiyu Demon Venerable." Jiang Fan was secretly excited. The Usura Saint's son was among these 5 people. No, one had to be excluded. That would be Dragon Flame Sage. If I'm not mistaken, the owner of the Little Tiger's family is Long Yan Venerable. He later advanced to the virtuous realm. The Dragon Flame Sage mentioned here should be him. This Dragon Flame Sage became a divinity transformation venerable in the human clan 1,000 years ago, so his suspicion is directly eliminated. Next are Wanyan Sage, Tianluo Sage, Ancient Zen Buddha Venerable, and Jiyu Demon Venerable. Judging by the names, the latter 2 should be sages from Buddhism and the demon race. But this does not eliminate their suspicion. Because Hua Xin once said, the Usura Saint's son originates from the bloodthirsty Shura lineage. Their best skills besides blood-sucking are hiding identities, to the extent that the ancient saints had not detected his existence. So it's hard to say whether he disguised himself as a human clan, a demon race, or even hid in Buddhism. It's Jiang Fan's first time being so close to the Usura Saint's son. He hurriedly asked again, "Senior, do you know if there was a heavenly human 5 declines great venerate in the Taikang state who seized the luck of the entire state to enter the virtuous realm?" Upon hearing this, Ice Heart Venerate felt a bit embarrassed but still said, "Of course, I know. I have also been to Taikang state to observe the local luck and see if it's possible to replicate the path of that sage. But I was stopped by the great wine sacrifice." Oh. Jiang Fan was puzzled. Ice Heart Venerate had been to Taikang state. When did this happen? However, that was not the question he should be asking. With a hint of anticipation in his eyes, he said, "Which one of the aforementioned was that great venerate?" Ice Heart Venerate replied, "How would I know? Entering the virtuous through luck is not an honorable deed. That great sage would naturally conceal the past. Moreover, it happened several hundred years ago. Most of those aware of it have already fallen, and few know of it now." Jiang Fan felt deeply regretful. He was so close to exposing the Usura Saint's son. Still, today's gains were not insignificant. At least he narrowed it down to 4 people. Upon returning to Taikang State, he'll slowly inquire about the 4 sages' circumstances to see if there are any clues. Whoosh, an invisible fluctuation suddenly swept out from a crack. It was shapeless and invisible, but wherever it passed, the hell creatures crowded at the entrance of the crack. Regardless of whether they were at the nascent soul realm or hiding among them at the divinity transformation realm. They all scattered like sand sculptures. Ice Heart Venerate's expression changed slightly. She waved her sleeve to envelop everyone and retreated, her beautiful face showing a solemn look. "It's the fluctuation of rules. The great wine sacrifice and some existence are battling in the interlayer world." Jiang Fan drew a cold breath. He wondered why the great wine sacrifice failed to seal a gap. It turned out there was a terrifying existence in the interlayer world. They retreated to the horizon, and what they saw was an endless sea of hell creatures, half of whom had been cleared out completely. All of them scattered like sand, leaving no remains. This frightened the hell creatures that barely escaped, making them dare not approach the gap again. They turned around and charged at Jiang Fan and the others. After finally driving them to this point, due to the rule fluctuation in the interlayer world, it was all in vain. Jiang Fan was slightly annoyed. It must be that terrifying existence inside that noticed the hell creatures retreating and thus made a move. His gaze flashed, and he quietly took out the hell soul bell, hid it in his sleeve. He shouted, "What are you all standing around for? Stop them quickly." The strong from various states rushed forward to attack. Jiang Fan noticed that Ice Heart Venerate also made a move. Only then did he, taking advantage of the battlefield's noisy environment, shake the Hell Soul Bell. The Hell creatures, upon hearing the bell, turned around in panic and fled toward the crack. This time, perhaps the great wine sacrifice had entangled that terrifying being. The other side could not make another move. The Hell creatures surged into the crack in droves. Half a tea's time later, all the Hell creatures had dispersed. The Hell creatures of the East Road were cleared. Jiang Wuya let out a long breath, a few traces of relief appearing on his face. I can't believe it. So many Hell creatures were driven back by us. All the strong from various states showed some signs of relief. Many had prepared themselves for the possibility of falling. Unexpectedly, it ended up incredibly smoothly, except for one fairy who fell at the beginning. The reinforcements from various states suffered no other casualties. It was truly a miracle. Red Dust Venerable looked at her severed arm, feeling a bit disoriented. The result turning out like this was beyond her imagination. In thought, she cast her gaze toward the young and beautiful Ice Heart Venerate, her eyes filled with envy and respect. With respect, she said, "Thanks to your blessing, our reinforcements from various states have made a great contribution. Please accept our bow of gratitude." In her view, the only person capable of making the Hell creatures flee should be this Venerate. Upon hearing this, everyone gathered their spirits and bowed to Ice Heart Venerate in respect. They had reaped significant rewards this time, earning many precious resources to exchange at Spiritual Snake Mountain. It was right to express gratitude to Ice Heart Venerate. Unexpectedly, Ice Heart Venerate glanced meaningfully at Jiang Fan's sleeve and then calmly said, "No need to thank me. You all have your own blessings. This great victory has little to do with me. Wang Chengxiao performed well in this battle. Let him say a few words to you all." Everyone was greatly exhausted and fatigued. Someone was needed to boost their spirit, so they could muster the energy to go support the demon race led by Golden Scale Venerate on the West Road. The crowd looked at Jiang Fan, deeply impressed by this fierce fighter against hell creatures from Taikang State. This person's methods were diverse and extremely powerful. The hell creatures he had slain probably weren't fewer than those taken down by several divinity transformation realm cultivators. While adjusting their own states, they watched Jiang Fan, curious about what he would say. Suddenly being named, Jiang Fan was taken aback. What is there to say? Just roll up your sleeves and get to work, that's all. Looking at everyone in their sorry state, he dazedly envisioned the imminent war between two worlds. That battle would be far more brutal than now. Thinking of this, he solemnly clasped his hands in salute to everyone and said in a low voice, "Fellow Taoists of various states, today is our first and last time joining forces to resist foreign enemies." The unexpected topic made everyone's expressions momentarily pause. Clearly, they understood Jiang Fan's implication. Their actions couldn't help but slow down, silently listening to Jiang Fan's words. Soon many of us will sacrifice on the battlefield. Journeys end in lovers' meetings, but we may not meet again. Today we share camaraderie, tomorrow we may journey together to the underworld, a picture of our future. Everyone fell increasingly silent, filled with an indescribable heaviness in their hearts. Indeed, today over 100 formidable warriors from each realm gathered as one. Once the battle with the ancient giants ends, less than 1 in 10 might survive. Perhaps all will fall. A wave of sorrow surged in their chests for a moment. Yet Jiang Fan suddenly changed his tone, saying, "However, please don't lose heart. Just as when we faced the hell creature's beast tide, we once despaired but eventually found a turning point. The battle against the ancient giants is no different. Our ancestors were never afraid. They fought bravely until death, their bodies standing firm for 1,000 years. Even when they couldn't win, they chose to perish alongside their enemies. 1,000 years later, what do we have to fear?" A sense of the human clan's mission filled everyone's hearts. Their weariness turned into a fervor of determination. Jiang Wuya gripped his sword box, his eyes sharp as he said, "From ancient times, evil never prevails over good. Our central earth has survived eternally, which is the manifestation of the heavenly Tao. In the end, victory will still be ours." Red Dust Venerable chuckled. "If we can't win, we can at least emulate our ancestors and perish with the ancient giants. This fragile body of mine can't withstand being crushed by the ancient giants." Everyone was equally spirited. Indeed, the ancient giants are not invincible. Jiang Fan of Taikang State has personally slain a giant king. You're behind on the news. Recently in Taikang State, he took down another giant king. Counting it all, he has killed 4 giant kings on the Heavenly Mountain battlefield. Slaying giant kings, fellow Taoist Jiang Fan is quite the expert. I call him the most accomplished giant king slayer in Central Earth. Jiang Fan felt a vain throb on his forehead. Why does something so glorious make him feel like hitting someone when these people talk about it? And isn't this supposed to inspire others? How did the focus suddenly shift to him? He coughed dryly, saying, "Everyone, no matter how great the challenges we face. Please stay strong." The crowd, rejuvenated, began shouting unevenly. "That's right, we must stay strong. Stay strong, stay strong. Stay strong, 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 SDR. SDR wrong, SDR wrong, SDR wrong." Listening with gratification, Jiang Fan nodded, but the sound started feeling odd. Why was there an incongruous voice? The strong ones from other states found it strange and stopped one after another. Only the demon cultivators from the great wilderness state shouted in unison. SDR wrong, SDR wrong, SDR wrong, SDR wrong, SDR wrong. Poof. Jiang Fan's eyes went wide, nearly spitting out blood. Really? Is there no hope for the ethos of the great wilderness state? Even Ice Heart Venerate couldn't help but roll her eyes at the demon cultivators of the great wilderness state, saying irritably, "Let's go to support the demon race on the West Road." Soon after they left, the young emperor drove a horde of hell creatures over. Under his formidable thunder path technique, the hell creatures frantically fled into the cracks. Before long, he had cleared everything out. However, he wasn't too pleased, because the East Road had cleared out before he did. Dare to steal my thunder? Reckless, on the other side. Golden Scale Venerate led the demons of Spiritual Snake Mountain in a difficult defense. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord, who had only recently joined them, was already suffering multiple injuries, the most notable being half of his right hand bitten off. He was both furious and regretful. After seeing Jiang Fan arrive at the front line, he planned to hide, wait for Jiang Fan to fall, and then take his heavenly thunder stone. Unexpectedly, Golden Scale Venerate sensed him and summoned him to the Western Line through a message across space. Even though he was under the Black Dragon Venerable, being alone, he dared not refuse Golden Scale Venerate's personal summons. He had no choice but to come here with gritted teeth. Had he thought he could take advantage of the chaos, he was caught off guard by the unprecedented scale of the beast tide, larger even than the outbreak 10 days ago. This left him with a body full of wounds. Now, the front line was on the verge of collapse, with the risk of falling at any moment. And Golden Scale Venerate had ordered them to fight to the death without retreating, possibly sealing their fate here today. The more he thought, the more upset he became. In hindsight, he would have never come underground. The only consolation was that if the Western Line was this dangerous, how much better could the Eastern Line, where Jiang Fan was, be? He should already be dead by now, right? But was his heavenly thunder stone left behind or swallowed by the hell creatures? Whoosh! At this moment, a gale suddenly howled through the sky. A beautiful young lady's figure silently appeared above. Simultaneously, over 100 formidable warriors from various states appeared. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord was stunned. Ice Heart Venerate, reinforcements from various states. Why are they here? Then, making his eyes almost pop out. Beside Ice Heart Venerate stood a lively middle-aged man. Who else could it be but Wang Xianxia? He was actually alive. Golden Scale Venerate was overjoyed, laughing heartily. "Ha-ha, they finally arrived," Ice Heart Venerate said succinctly. "Everyone, please endure a bit longer." The powerhouses from various states joined the demon race's defense line. Their participation significantly strengthened the defense line. The retreating line of the demon race swiftly began a counterattack. However, the hell creature's counterattack was equally fierce. In the heated battle, someone was immediately seriously injured, nearly falling. Jiang Fan didn't hesitate, decisively shaking the hell soul bell in his sleeve. As with the Eastern Line, at the sound of the bell, the hell creatures turned tail and ran. Golden Scale Venerate, surprised, cast his gaze towards Jiang Fan, revealing a look of astonishment. Clearly, as someone experiencing the heavenly human 5 declines, he too sensed the source of the sound. "Ice Heart Venerate, who is this?" Golden Scale Venerate asked in surprise through a transmitted message. Realizing that this person's secrets couldn't be revealed lightly, he stayed silent. Ice Heart Venerate nodded gently, saying, "The West Sea Crown Prince of Taikang State." Golden Scale Venerate was amazed. "What's going on in Taikang State recently? One remarkable person after another is emerging. First, it was the talented youngster, Jiang Fan, and now there's this eccentric capable of controlling hell creatures. Watching the fleeing hell creatures, Ice Heart Venerate said, "Remember to award him a great deed later." Golden Scale Venerate looked at Jiang Fan, deeply grateful. "A great deed isn't enough. Without his intervention, our demon continent could have been destroyed. He deserves a heavenly merit at least." He decided to reward this person generously. However, soon his expression subtly darkened, because he saw the Soul Shadow Demon Lord catching up with Jiang Fan, who was chasing the hell creatures. The two chatted freely, appearing quite familiar with each other. "He doesn't get along well with the Black Dragon Venerable. Is this West Sea Crown Prince one of the Black Dragon Venerable's men?" Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a sense of resistance within the beast tide. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord looked surprised and said, "Wang Chengxiao, you're safe." Jiang Fan sneered inwardly. "This guy is covered in wounds and still hopes he'll die." He retorted, "Senior, do you wish for something to happen to me?" The Soul Shadow Demon Lord just recovered, quickly donned a stern face and said, "How could I? I care about you." Jiang Fan smiled but said nothing, quietly watching the Soul Shadow Demon Lord perform. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord looked at the hell creatures fleeing in panic, thinking quickly. The hell creatures are only focusing on running and don't harm people. How can he kill Jiang Fan right in front of everyone's eyes? Seeing him not speaking, Jiang Fan could more or less guess what this guy was thinking. Even at a time like this, he's still not given up. Well then, he can't blame him for being ruthless. He took out a piece of ice. Sealed within it was the luck transfer lock that hadn't been used for a long time. "Senior, I just made some achievements, and Ice Heart Venerate rewarded me with a treasure. Could you help me see what it is?" A reward from a Venerate. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord was spirited. How could a Venerate's reward be weak? He glanced over and immediately saw the extraordinary nature of the heart-shaped copper lock, clearly a top-grade spiritual artifact. What achievements did this kid make? Just casually giving away a top-grade spiritual artifact. He was even a bit jealous. Looking at Jiang Fan, who foolishly handed over the magical treasure for him to inspect, his eyes shifted slightly and he said, "Let me take a closer look." He reached out to take the ice block, examined it up close, feigned confusion, and said, "Seems pretty ordinary. Shouldn't be of much use to you." Jiang Fan doubted, "Really? Ice Heart Venerate would reward something ordinary." The Soul Shadow Demon Lord sternly said, "We are all men of the Black Dragon Venerable, would I deceive you? After all, Ice Heart Venerate is an outsider. Even if you made contributions, she wouldn't be willing to reward you. I really can't stand it. Let me, on behalf of the Black Dragon Venerable, reward you instead." He took out a jade box. Inside was a scattered crystal, emitting an astonishing pressure. This was discovered 10 days ago from a divinity transformation realm hell creature during the hell creature outbreak. Black Dragon Venerable said this crystal comes from the hell realm and is precious for refining yin attribute spirit pills and magic artifacts, and cultivating yin attribute skills. You take it back to Taikang, sell it to the evil crow venerable of the great yin sect, and surely you can trade for treasures. Jiang Fan was speechless. He thought it might be some treasure. In the end, he's giving him some junk. But his intention was not to ask for anything. If the other party is willing to give, then he'll take it. Immediately, he gratefully said, "Thank you, Senior." He held the jade box in both hands, and at the moment of touch, his expression slightly changed, because he discovered that a trace of reaction had appeared in the Saint Crystal within the Heavenly Thunder Stone. The Saint Crystal is a divine object that can reverse an ancient giant, restoring it to its original state. What exactly is this black crystal? Suppressing excitement, he discreetly put it into the Heavenly Thunder Stone. Then he looked to the luck transfer lock and said, "So, Senior, you should return this to me, right?" The Soul Shadow Demon Lord scoffed, having taken his benefits, still wanting to reclaim the top-grade spiritual artifact. He said, "You already have the black crystal reward. How about this useless item? You reward it to another demon race." "You can't take two rewards at the same time, can you?" Jiang Fan looked reluctantly at the luck transfer lock and said helplessly, "All right, then give it to you, Senior." Inside, Jiang Fan sneered. His gaze already began searching for divinity transformation realm hell creatures to court death. But, perhaps due to the two venerates overseeing, the divinity transformation realm hell creatures had all fled without a trace. Until they reached the crevice, a group of hell creatures crowded at the opening. Only then did they see a divinity transformation realm hell creature. His eyes lit up. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord also noticed the opportunity. If he doesn't find a way to send Jiang Fan off now, he won't have the chance. Not only will he fail to fulfill the Black Dragon Venerable's command, but he won't get that drop of the black dragon venerable's venom. His eyes shifted, urging, Xianxia, the hell creatures are about to run out. If we don't work harder, there'll be no credit for us. I'll take you to find a powerful one and kill it. Jiang Fan had this intention and nodded. Thanks, Senior, I need to win honor for the Lord. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord chuckled secretly. Truly hopelessly foolish. He immediately lifted Jiang Fan, flickering to the sky above the divinity transformation realm hell creature. A grim light flashed in his eyes, and he said, "You better be careful." Then appeared with Jiang Fan before the divinity transformation realm hell creature. That hell creature saw humans and demons pursuing them, and without a word, roared and sprayed a blood-red beam to engulf them. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord curled his lips in a cold smile. Goodbye, Xianxia. His mind moved, and he instantly moved away, leaving Jiang Fan alone to face this lethal strike. But unexpectedly, the hell creature suddenly exploded and scattered from inside out. A figure drenched in thunderous light flashing, like a sun high in the sky, stood above the divinity transformation realm hell creature. Coldly said, "How dare you be so impudent in front of me?" Jiang Fan was speechless. On the brink of borrowed murder, the young emperor suddenly appeared. This guy, indeed domineering. The hell creature had been provoked. Wasn't it easy to defend oneself properly? Why sentence it to death without any consideration? At least according to the world rules, you could call it a mutual brawl. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord also slapped his legs in anger. Seeing Jiang Fan almost dead, the young emperor suddenly became irrational. Yet he had no chance anymore. The two venerates and the crowd rushed over, unitedly exterminating the hell creatures until none were left. The Golden Scale Venerate couldn't contain his excitement and clasped his hands, saying, "Thanks to everyone's help, the crisis in our demon continent is resolved. Once the great wine sacrifice seals the crevice, I will surely reward according to merit." Everyone's eyes lit up. The rewards previously promised by spiritual Snake Mountain are exceedingly generous. They received assistance from mysterious figures this time, suppressing the hell creatures, allowing everyone to have incredible gains. The rewards obtained will be astonishing. Of course, some were not interested. The young emperor looked down on them like a lord of the world, indifferently saying, "Who is controlling the hell creatures?" His gaze roamed among the strong ones of the states. Because the hell creatures on the West Road fled due to Ice Heart Venerate leading the people there. So that person must be among the people led by Ice Heart Venerate. Ice Heart Venerate felt a sense of unease and said, "What do you want to do?" The young emperor, hands behind his back, arrogantly said, "I don't allow anyone to steal my limelight. Who is controlling the hell creatures? Stand forth." Interlayer world, the formidable figures from each state remained solemn. Speaking of might, in the entire realm of Central Earth, if the young emperor claims second, no one dares to claim first. Just because someone cleared a path faster than him, does he want to cause trouble? What kind of reasoning is this, compared to other states where anger is stifled by fear? The few powerful figures from Heavenly State retreated behind others with grave expressions. They knew the young emperor too well. He always acted on impulse, always beyond reason, and often wouldn't stop until he achieved his goal. Jiang Fan frowned incessantly. Wanting his life for the Void Flow Thunder Force was understandable. But now wanting to act against him over such a trivial matter. It's no wonder the commander advised him to stay away from the young emperor. This guy is both tyrannical and insane. Ice Heart Venerate stood silently in front of the crowd, saying, "The great wine sacrifice is upon us. Please speak and act with caution." Golden Scale Venerate also stepped forward among the powerful figures from each state, exuding a massive demon aura, saying deeply, "Young Emperor, don't act recklessly. Thanks to support from outer state, the demon continent is spared from a catastrophe. As the host, how could he sit idly by while the young Emperor threatened them? Yet the young Emperor ignored them. His gaze still pierced deeply, sweeping over the powerful figures from each state. Those swept over couldn't help but show slight signs of agony, as if their bodies were pierced by two sharp blades, cutting inch by inch. Various forces hidden within their bodies flowed uncontrollably out. The divinity transformation venerables were relatively unharmed, while those in the nascent soul realm had no secrets in front of the young emperor. Jiang Fan's pupils shrank slightly. Whether the young emperor can locate the Hell Soul Bell is uncertain, but he will definitely find the Void Flow Thunder Force within his body. Since the Heavenly Mechanism Elder had young Emperor Mountain's people send a message telling him not to bother Jiang Fan again. Jiang Fan once believed the young emperor would give up, but witnessing the young emperor's tyranny firsthand, He didn't think the young emperor would listen to advice. If the void flow thunder force within him was discovered, he'd likely face instant assassination. Even with Ice Heart Venerate and Golden Scale Venerate's protection, he wouldn't relent. As his gaze swiftly scanned towards the team from Taikang State, Jiang Fan's heart sank quickly. Various strategies crossed his mind, like using the chaotic ancient blood Marquis seal, or the Black Dragon Venerable's poison, or intimidating with the bronze Hell Beast vessels. But as soon as these thoughts appeared, they vanished. He wasn't facing a heavenly person decline, nor a second decline. Instead, it was a human supreme capable of commanding a great state, a heavenly human 5 declines. Any scheme is like a bubble against absolute strength, easily popped with a single dismissive swipe. The only chance lay with the luck transfer lock held by the Soul Shadow Demon Lord. He would block a fatal blow for him. At this moment, standing next to Jiang Fan was Jiang Wuya, who grunted softly. The young emperor's gaze swept over him, causing the divine ring at the back of his head to sway uncontrollably. The domain silently spread, enveloping the surroundings. In a trance, everyone seemed to see a colossal scale. One side of the scale held a heart filled with righteousness, while the other was their own hearts. If the heart was bright, the scale balanced. If the heart was dark, the scale tilted, uncontrollably leading to self-destruction. The young emperor couldn't help but take a closer look at this domain, saying, "Measuring good and evil, drawing borders as prisons." This domain only affected those deeply wicked. For those pure at heart, it had no effect. This meant, if Jiang Wuya's opponents weren't particularly evil, his domain would be useless, leaving him at a disadvantage in a fight. Jiang Wuya withdrew his domain, calmly stating, "If holding the righteous path means drawing borders as prisons, then so be it. Young emperor, do more good, less evil. It's never too late." The powerful figures from each state felt their hearts tremble. Jiang Wuya actually dared to admonish the young emperor. Given the young emperor's unpredictability, he wouldn't tolerate anyone clearing hell creatures before him, let alone criticizing him. Ice Heart Venerate and Golden Scale Venerate's expressions tightened. Given their understanding of the young emperor, he seemed inclined towards murder. However, to their surprise, the young emperor merely chuckled. "My actions are beyond your reproach." Then, as everyone watched in shock, his gaze shifted from Jiang Wuya, scanning to Jiang Fan. Jiang Fan's heart weighed heavily, silently sighing. It was inevitable that he'd be exposed. He could only fight to the death. But just as the young emperor's gaze was about to penetrate his body, a massive rift suddenly radiated an even larger wave of rule power. Wherever it passed, space seemed to compress like an elderly person's skin, forming layers of wrinkles. The space near the breach was even torn into large patches of void. The chaotic space power spread wildly from the void. The gathered individuals were immediately engulfed, scattered in all directions by the chaotic space power. Those with better luck were pushed away, out of the range of spatial destruction. Those with worse luck were caught within the spatial wrinkles like in a dumpling. But that's just bad luck. Others were downright unlucky. A group of human clan and demon race swept into the rift by a massive chaotic space power. What's inside was the interlayer world, the domain of hell creatures. Even contained a terrifying virtuous realm creature. The likelihood of survival upon falling inside was incredibly slim. At the edge of the shattered space, Jiang Fan was flung out. Stumbling, he nearly fell flat. Glancing around, finding himself in a safe area, a look of excitement surfaced on his face. "Heavens, you've finally shown some mercy." In the usual pattern, such sudden emergencies always caught him. Now with heaven favoring him, making him a lucky one, he felt somewhat unreal. No time to dwell, he steadied himself and used Cloud Shadow to rush away. But just as he was about to flee, another wave of rule power radiated. Moreover, this wave targeted Jiang Fan. An invisible hand of rule power caught him. In the next instant, he vanished from the scene. After a violent spin, as the world turned upside down, Jiang Fan glanced around, his face sinking. This place was dark with no light, and Yin Qi surged skyward. In the distance, hordes of hell creatures were faintly visible, roaring as they approached. Where was this if not the interlayer world? I had a feeling it would be like this. Jiang Fan sighed deeply. Winning the jackpot wouldn't happen to him. Feeling the approaching beast tide, he dared not linger. If there were divinity transformation realm hell creatures among them, it would be disastrous. He closed his eyes to sense, noticing the flow of Yin Qi toward the north. That should be the breach where the Yin Qi flowed out. Just as he was preparing to leave, suddenly he felt something. A golden leaf floated slowly from his chest, pointing towards the hell creatures. Jiang Fan was puzzled. Is this the golden leaf from Forgetful Wild Elder? He mentioned his disciple would also come here, asking me to take care of her. Looking at the direction the golden leaf pointed, he was speechless. That guy is also a bit unlucky, getting swept into the interlayer world too. Sure enough, among the hell creatures' thundering footsteps there was faint but furious cursing. Ah, you damned bastard, you brought me into this? Jiang Fan looked at the golden leaf on his chest. A thought popped into his mind. Could it be that Forgetful Wild Elder's disciple was randomly teleported by the space power? Due to sensing between the gold and silver leaves on both of them, was she also dragged into this? Jiang Fan was somewhat speechless. It turned out that bad luck could be contagious. Seeing the other party being chased by hell creatures, he decisively went forward. Even if it wasn't to fulfill Forgetful Wild Elder's agreement to take care of her, she fell into the interlayer world because of him. How could he stand by and do nothing? Whoosh! He flashed to the sky above the group of hell creatures. Looking down, hundreds of hell creatures were chasing an 18-year-old girl. The girl wore coarse linen clothes, her hair tied in a dirty ponytail, her face covered in pustules. As if that wasn't enough, her eyes were crossed. Jiang Fan's mouth twitched. Was this the Wild Elder's female disciple? That old guy really had the nerve to match them up. Seeing a few late-stage nascent soul hell creatures brewing dangerous red glows in their mouths, he dared not hesitate. He decisively took out the hell soul bell and shook it. The pursuing hell creatures immediately stopped, and with the constant ringing of the bell, they all hung their heads and scattered away trembling. Thus, the ugly girl was saved. She stopped, panting, and sat down on a dark stone. Unexpectedly, the stone in the interlayer world was extremely cold, making her shiver and jump up like a spring. She was both angry and annoyed, glaring fiercely at Jiang Fan in the sky with her cross eyes without saying a word. In her heart, she grumbled, "Is this the good man that the master spoke of?" Looking at Jiang Fan's middle-aged face, she secretly thought, "If master wants to marry me off so I stay far from him, he could just say so. There's no need to arrange a match with such a middle-aged man, right?" The only thing he compares to Jiang Fan is that he's also from Taikang State, of course. That's what he claimed. The girl was naturally Yue Mingzhu. To avoid being favored by the good man arranged by the master, she paid a price to alter her appearance. She glanced at Jiang Fan, her eyes slightly darting, and said, "You're not from Taikang State, are you?" Although she didn't like the middle-aged man in front of her, she had to admit his strength was terrifying. When previously chasing the hell creatures, he took the lead, not inferior to Jiang Wuya, the divinity transformation venerable. She hadn't heard of such a person in Taikang State, so she was highly suspicious of this man's claimed Taikang State identity. Jiang Fan naturally wouldn't explain, landing in front of her. Seeing the gold and silver leaves floating in front of their chests, he found it hard to act as if he hadn't seen them. He had to say, "The Forgetful Wild Elder must have mentioned me to you, right? But please allow me to make it clear, I already have a Taoist partner, and I have no intention of partnering with others. I hope Fairy won't persist. I pester you." Yue Mingzhu smirked with anger, muttering to herself, "This guy is truly hypocritical. If he didn't want to comply with my master's wishes, why take the golden leaf? Could it be that my master would really force him? Obviously, he changed his mind upon seeing my ugly appearance. If I showed my true face, he'd probably have a different tune." She made no effort to hide her disdain and said, "Isn't that a coincidence? I also hope not to be pestered by you." Hearing this, Jiang Fan subtly relaxed, showing a smile. That would be the best. He could now report back to the Forgetful Wild Elder. Who knows, after all this time, if the Forgetful Wild Elder had found Yue Mingzhu. Boom! A loud boom suddenly erupted from the center of the interlayer world. It seemed like some powerful entity was fighting. Jiang Fan's expression became solemn. "Let's go, I'll take you out of the interlayer world." Yue Mingzhu's heart also skipped a beat. This place was indeed dangerous. They had to leave quickly, but she didn't trust Jiang Fan to lead the way. Though Jiang Fan's strength was formidable, in the interlayer world it might not suffice, so she'd best rely on herself. Her eyes flashed with a colorful gleam, activating her most proficient Emperor's Gaze technique, observing the fortune between heaven and earth, discerning the good and bad. From her experience, places with abundant fortune were often safe. Scanning around, her gaze fixed behind her, and she couldn't help but frown, murmuring, "Strange, the combat zone is as bright as the sun with fortune, impossible to look straight at. The direction of the exit, on the contrary, is shrouded in darkness with ominous danger trailing." After a brief consideration, she glanced at Jiang Fan, coldly saying, "If you don't want to die, follow me." Then she immediately took off, swiftly heading towards the site of battle. Jiang Fan hurriedly called out, "Are you crazy?" Yet the other party didn't even turn her head and was already using space secret techniques to rush eagerly. Jiang Fan clicked his tongue. This girl, why is she so disobedient? He wanted to leave then and there, but remembering the forgetful wild elder's instructions, he could only grit his teeth and quickly catch up. First, he would try to persuade her, and if she wouldn't listen, he'd knock her unconscious and take her away. Before long, Jiang Fan caught up with the ugly girl. They had arrived at an unknown place in the interlayer world. The yin qi was intense. Even Jiang Fan, at late-stage nascent soul, felt a chill. While the ugly girl was lying on a steep dirt slope, sneakily observing the front through a rock crevice. Jiang Fan didn't make any careless moves and quietly crawled over. Following the direction the ugly girl was looking, his expression changed. On the other side of the small dirt slope was a sunken black valley. The valley was filled with thick black liquid, evaporating large amounts of mist, which condensed into dark clouds above the valley. These dark clouds spread in all directions, descending strands of yin qi wherever they went. Jiang Fan looked astonished. Is this valley full of liquefied yin qi? Is this place the source of yin qi for the entire interlayer world? He had a bad premonition. A place like this was definitely the core area of the interlayer world, surely guarded by supreme creatures. For the two of them in the nascent soul realm to come here was practically seeking death. To his surprise, the intensely thick pool of yin qi wasn't lifeless. In the pool was actually growing a black lotus the size of a face basin. From its 9 lotus holes spewed black flames. Upon close look, 8 of the lotus holes were already empty. There was still 1 lotus hole with a glowing black lotus seed. What's that? Jiang Fan pondered. To grow at the source of yin qi in the interlayer world, it was undoubtedly a peerless treasure. The question was whether it would be useful for the creatures of Central Earth Realm. And beside him, Yue Mingzhu's eyes were already shimmering, her face glowing with excitement. She whispered, "That's the Black Lotus of Tribulation from the Hell Realm. It's not only of great use for the Hell creatures to break through, second only to the Hell Abyss Crystal. It's also of sky-defying effect for the creatures of the Central Earth Realm to break through realms. Just 1 lotus seed can enable a heavenly person 4 declines individual to break through the shackles and become a human supreme." What? Jiang Fan's heart pounded. It could elevate someone to the heavenly human 5 declines. Wouldn't that mean it could artificially create a great venerable realm existence? With the advent of the ancient giant imminent, if the Central Earth could birth a great venerate, it would indeed be a huge blessing. His eyes lit up with eagerness. But soon he squinted, suspiciously glaring at Yue Mingzhu. This girl ugly, fine, but very scheming. She knew such a divine object, so why reveal it? Wasn't it just to provoke Jiang Fan's desire to risk extracting that lotus seed? Object wouldn't be left unprotected and casually placed. There must be unseen dangers. He said flatly, "Are you treating me like an ancient giant?" Her little scheme was seen through, but Yue Mingzhu wasn't angry. Her crystal eyes turned and another idea popped up. "Then why don't we collaborate to take the Black Lotus of Tribulation? Once we succeed, we'll split the lotus seeds in half each." After obtaining the Black Lotus of Tribulation, she had ways to snatch it away. However, Jiang Fan pondered for a moment, slightly shook his head and said, "I think it's better not to be tempted by greed. In such a perilous environment, a spiritual object remarkable as this, yet the hell creatures keep their distance." "What does that imply? Doesn't it go without saying?" Yue Mingzhu pouted her lips and said, "You are quite cautious." Speaking it out, she suddenly paused. She couldn't help sizing up Jiang Fan. "Why are you looking at me?" Jiang Fan asked. Yue Mingzhu touched her chin and said, "You actually resemble my man a bit." Jiang Fan was both amused and frustrated. She had a man and yet forgetful wild elder still matches them. He sternly said, "Your man isn't picky, he wants anyone." Yue Mingzhu shrugged. "My man is far more outstanding than you imagine," she said as she reevaluated the Black Lotus of Tribulation. After brief contemplation, she said, "Since we're not taking it, let's wait then." She also decisively chose to give up. Because Jiang Fan's words indeed made sense. Such a defiant divine object, if it were that easy to obtain, why would the hell creatures in the interlayer world not take it? There are even divinity transformation realm beings among them. They all refrain, which shows its danger. Wait for what? Jiang Fan was puzzled. He couldn't understand the series of actions of the strange girl before him. Wait for a chance to survive. Yue Mingzhu calmly said, "This place is the safest." The black lotus of tribulation in front was the huge fortune she had seen. Staying by its side ensures unparalleled safety. As she spoke, she took out a small stone engraved with light golden inscriptions, pressed it to her forehead. The inscription printed onto her forehead. Immediately, she vanished on the spot. All her aura and power fluctuations disappeared without a trace. Jiang Fan was surprised. Such an impressive invisibility technique, obviously beside him, yet he was completely unaware. In terms of invisibility effects, it was even superior to the no-self dust-cleansing technique he learned. Perhaps even a divinity transformation realm initial period wouldn't necessarily discover her presence. Jiang Fan curiously asked, "Can you lend me that stone for a moment?" Yue Mingzhu glanced at the golden leaf spinning around his chest and unceremoniously said, "In your dreams." Jiang Fan puckered his lips. "All right, I'll go invisible by myself then." Yue Mingzhu frowned. If they encountered danger later, some extremely powerful being, what would happen? If Jiang Fan's invisibility wasn't advanced enough, he would be seen through. By then, it would inevitably implicate her too. "Such a bother," she muttered, reluctantly tossed the little stone beside him. Only then did Jiang Fan grab the small stone, mimicking her action by sticking it to his forehead. Instantly, a faint mystical fluctuation surged into his body. He wasn't unfamiliar with this kind of fluctuation. This was the sage's engraving, words containing rule power. Jiang Fan was secretly astonished. Forgetful wild elder truly dotes on this disciple, gifting her such a life-saving item. "Return it when you're done," Yue Mingzhu urged immediately upon seeing Jiang Fan invisible. Jiang Fan complied, tilted his head, only realizing he could see the invisible Yue Mingzhu. He marveled. This is truly amazing. Within the same sage's engraving invisibility, they can see each other. Yue Mingzhu snatched back the stone, gave him a big, cold shoulder, then silently observed the black lotus of tribulation. Jiang Fan grinned and chuckled. This guy's personality is truly hard to fathom. He also laid down, observing the black lotus of tribulation together, softly asked, "What exactly are you waiting for?" Feeling Jiang Fan's presence very close, Yue Mingzhu disdainfully crawled a little aside, saying, "Don't ask, just wait." Jiang Fan had no choice but to patiently wait quietly. After half a cup of tea's time, the black lotus of tribulation still remained motionless. But suddenly he squinted his eyes sharply, looking across the canyon. Relying on the wind origin, he faintly sensed a strange air current. Someone was coming. The reason they couldn't be seen was either due to a cultivation reaching the divinity transformation realm or being in an invisibility state. Yue Mingzhu seemed to sense it too, quietly writing, "Follow the black lotus of tribulation" on the ground for Jiang Fan to see. Once Jiang Fan read it, she promptly erased it. Jiang Fan contemplated, "Follow the black lotus of tribulation." While thinking, ripples appeared on the black water at the valley bottom. It turned out that the black lotus of tribulation was shaking, stirring water waves. Someone was attempting to extract the black lotus of tribulation. He focused intently, not blinking as he watched the movements of the black lotus of tribulation. The roots and stems of the black lotus of tribulation were connected to something unknown, and the hidden expert couldn't pull it up barehandedly. For a whole 10 breaths. The other seemed anxious, as this place was in the depths of the interlayer world. There wasn't a moment to be lost. Unable to wait any longer, he unleashed the full might of the divinity transformation realm. The release of power naturally broke his invisibility state, revealing his form. It was a burly man with crimson skin, muscular, wearing only a sash with a top-grade spiritual artifact-level iron hammer at his waist. There was a flame-marked divine ring at the back of his head. Jiang Fan recognized him. He should be a divinity transformation venerable from the divine weapon state. This person, too, was swept into the interlayer world. After revealing himself, he no longer held back, with the divine ring vibrating behind him, directly launching a domain. "Nothing is indestructible." The domain radiated in all directions, covering Jiang Fan and Yue Mingzhu. Jiang Fan immediately felt his body becoming soft and limp. Not just losing all strength, even his bones were softening. More miraculously, the chilly ground beneath him also turned muck-like, and he continued to sink downward. Yue Mingzhu was the same. In a flash, half of her body was already sunk into the earth. The venerable sensed the anomaly. His eyes swept over to Jiang Fan, filled with both astonishment and caution. He dared not hesitate, using force once more, though the center of the domain at the bottom of the black water was softened to the maximum extent. But it was only after channeling all the divinity transformation power that the Black Lotus of Tribulation finally acted. With a buzz, the black water's bottom shook violently as if something detached from the pond, creating intense vibrations. The entire valley shook violently, with cracks spreading outward from the pond's bottom to all directions. Moreover, the quake propagated through the entire interlayer world, causing the entire world to start shaking, breaking apart, showing signs of collapsing. Jiang Fan's expression changed. Isn't the Black Lotus of Tribulation a spiritual object? Why, when uprooted, does it seem like an array's core being destroyed? The divinity transformation venerable from the divine weapon state was also taken aback. He discovered the lotus's extraordinariness by chance, which was why he targeted it. How did it lead to such a huge tremor in the interlayer world? This meant the commotion here couldn't be concealed from others. If other divinity transformation venerables were also swept in, they'd come in an instant. Without hesitation, he mustered all his strength, pulling hard. Crack, accompanied by a loud snapping sound. Finally, the Black Lotus of Tribulation was uprooted entirely. And this finally triggered an even greater shock. The entire valley collapsed on the spot, a terrifying earthquake causing the ground to violently roll. It was as if countless giant beasts were tumbling underground. Even the spatial barriers of the interlayer world were trembling at this moment. The space was twisted into layers of folds, just like the previous Sage battle. For a moment, the interlayer world was crumbling. Jiang Fan felt a chill in his heart. He must leave quickly. The vibrations in the interlayer world showed no signs of weakening, but instead grew stronger. If the spatial barriers were to rupture, connecting to the void world, it would be quite a spectacle. All the creatures in this world would be exiled to the void world, just like the nascent soul cave mansion at the bottom of the snow mountain cliff in Taikang State. At this moment, the divinity transformation venerable of divine weapon state pulled out the Black Lotus of Tribulation. A quick glance. Beneath the roots, there was a large, long, and swollen mass of gray. It was actually a lotus root as tall as a person. It was precisely its presence that prevented the Black Lotus of Tribulation from being extracted. The divinity transformation venerable didn't have time to look further, casually throwing it into the space storage device, and then looked in the direction of Jiang Fan and Yue Mingzhu. His eyes narrowed slightly, a hint of ruthlessness flowing in them. Jiang Fan's expression changed slightly. Not good. This guy plans to kill to keep the secret. With such a heaven-defying divine object in his possession, if news were to leak, it could bring about a deadly disaster. For safety's sake, it's naturally best to kill those who witnessed it. Although he couldn't see Jiang Fan and Yue Mingzhu, the previous accident of sinking into the ground had already exposed their position. Just by striking at this place, he could kill the two of them. Jiang Fan's heart pounded. He decisively reached out and grabbed Yue Mingzhu's arm, using spatial teleportation to escape. They barely left in time. The ground they had been lying on suddenly turned into a swamp. Below the swamp, a fist filled with destructive power lashed out fiercely. Then, the mud gathered, forming the figure of the divinity transformation venerable. Looking again at the divinity transformation venerable beside the black water pond, it dissolved into mud on the spot. This person's domain, besides softening all things, could even soften himself and merge with all things. Jiang Fan was shocked. The divinity transformation venerable, who primarily practiced alchemy and artifact refining, had always given a strong auxiliary ability, but a relatively weak strength stereotype. But the divinity transformation venerable of divine weapon state, like the Vice Palace Master Yu, overturned Jiang Fan's understanding. Their strength wasn't any weaker than the divinity transformation venerables who entered the Tao through magic cultivation. You hid quite fast. The divinity transformation venerable of divine weapon state watched them with a sullen face. Yue Mingzhu was startled, instinctively wanting to mobilize her nascent soul power to activate a magical treasure to defend. But before her spiritual power could surge out, it was suppressed by the nascent soul power Jiang Fan transferred into her palm. He shook his head slightly at Yue Mingzhu, indicating not to act rashly. This person was trying to trick them into attacking, revealing their position. Yue Mingzhu then calmed down, for they were under the protection of the sage's engraving. As long as they didn't reveal a unique aura, this person couldn't detect their position. Sure enough, seeing no unusual aura flow around, the divinity transformation venerable became anxious and angry. He didn't have the time to keep delaying. He must decide the battle quickly. He activated the divine ring again, with his domain of softening all things swiftly enveloping the surroundings. Then he closely monitored any anomalies around him. How could Jiang Fan and Yue Mingzhu withstand the domain deployed by a venerable right in front of them? Their bodies quickly softened, and the ground beneath their feet began to melt. It seemed as if it would trap them soon, revealing their location. Jiang Fan gritted his teeth, secretly maneuvering 3 top-grade flying swords. Today was different from the past. The 3 top-grade spirit swords from before were the Tingsu sword, the Sawtooth sword, and the purple sword. Among them, only the Tingsu sword had an artifact spirit. Now he was maneuvering the Tingsu sword, purple thunder, and green frost. They all contained artifact spirits. The power of the sword array had undoubtedly risen to a new level compared to before. It posed a fatal threat to a heavenly person decline. Given the short distance between them, launching a sneak attack caught the other party off guard. There's still hope to take him down. Of course, that's if the other party was vigilant enough and hadn't taken enough precautions against their 2 nascent soul realm individuals. If he was cautious, he would still use instantaneous movement to escape. Just as Jiang Fan was about to make a move, suddenly a vague and ethereal cold voice unexpectedly sounded overhead. Having taken the item, why not run? Quite the idiot. Jiang Fan shuddered all over. The pressure contained in the voice seemed like mountains pressed down on him, making him uncontrollably tremble. The divinity transformation venerable of divine weapon state also had a dramatic shift in expression, looking up at the empty sky as if understanding something. He was terrified to the point of despair. Ignoring Jiang Fan and Yue Mingzhu, he instantly fled. But as soon as he disappeared, from the end of the world a tragic scream rolled out. It could be seen that the divinity transformation venerable of divine weapon state was crushed by an invisible and terrifying force. His body exploded into a bloody mist, staining the sky red. Jiang Fan was drenched in cold sweat, instantly killing a venerable of a heavenly person decline without the slightest power to resist. He could already imagine what level of existence this was. The heavenly human 5 declines great venerate. Among the ice heart venerate, young emperor and golden scale venerate. One of them had also been caught up in this. No, with the strength of a heavenly human 5 declines great venerate, it was impossible for some simple spatial fluctuations to sweep them here. It could only be that he came in willingly. Moreover, judging from the other party's tone, he had long been beside the Black Lotus of Tribulation. The reason he didn't personally take the Black Lotus of Tribulation was likely because, like Jiang Fan and the others, he sensed the danger of the Black Lotus of Tribulation's existence. So he waited for others to collect it before making a move. But this meant he knew all along that there was a Black Lotus of Tribulation in the interlayer world and came for it. Which great venerate was this? As Jiang Fan pondered, there was another change ahead. In the exploding blood mist, a soul the size of a fist, holding a space storage ring containing the Black Lotus of Tribulation, fled into the void. A long, sweeping tail, like a scythe of death, swept across a world. The soul of the divinity transformation venerable let out a tragic cry, falling out of the void. Horror-stricken, he fled. What made Jiang Fan's face turn cold was this guy was coming in their direction, obviously attempting to shift the calamity onto them, hoping they'd divert the mysterious great venerate's attention, allowing him to escape. Even left with only a soul, he's still so vicious. In a breath, the soul of the divinity transformation venerable had swept close to Jiang Fan, then anxiously and expectantly looked around. He awaited the heavenly human 5 declines venerable to strike. Even if the other party leaked a little aura, it would reveal the 2 hidden ones. Jiang Fan showed a cold expression, with a soul nail swirling at his brow. Sensing the soul's fluctuation, the divinity transformation venerable's soul grinned instead of being angry, revealing a sneer towards Jiang Fan's direction. They were indeed here. And at that moment, the terrifying giant tail also swept over. Jiang Fan's heart pounded wildly, and at the same time he changed his mind, retracting the soul-shocking stab, switching to the soul-capturing lock. The Black Lotus of Tribulation was in this person's space storage device. The heavenly human 5 declines great venerate definitely wanted to keep him alive, to find the storage device's incantation. If Jiang Fan and Yue Mingzhu had any chance of survival, there was only one path: capture this soul. Venerable, seeing the giant tail sweeping towards him, decisively escaped into the void. He was just about to flee when layers of chains immediately appeared, binding him. Startled and furious, he shouted, "Let me go!" The chains immediately showed cracks. Jiang Fan was taken aback, unable to imprison him. Previously imprisoning a Dharma image realm half-giant was quite easy to suppress. In an instant, he understood. The soul of the half-giant was only half human, the other half a mysterious black entity. The soul of the current divinity transformation venerable was a genuine soul of the divinity transformation realm. His 9-aperture nascent soul, attempting to imprison it, was indeed a bit of a stretch. The brief mistake allowed the giant tail to press close. "Let me go now!" The soul of the divinity transformation venerable screamed in terror. Jiang Fan's heart also pounded fiercely. Is it already too late? Suddenly, he remembered something, and a phantom of a green eye appeared on his abdomen. After sweeping over the divinity transformation venerable, Jiang Fan shouted in a low voice, "Soften everything!" He had never used the copying magic eye to replicate the domain of the divinity transformation venerable. Could it succeed? He had no certainty, but now he could only try. As his mind moved, a faint ripple spread over a Tenjiang area centered on him. Suddenly, the surrounding ground and the Yue Mingzhu within this range were unexpectedly affected. The ground softened, and the Yue Mingzhu felt as if influenced by the soften everything domain. Though more than 10 times weaker, it indeed was softening everything. The soul of the struggling divinity transformation venerable was even more affected, its strength weakening, and the nearly collapsing soul capturing lock immediately tightened around it. "Ah, let me go now!" All this seemed lengthy, but in reality was just an electric spark moment. Jiang Fan grabbed the soul, snatching the space storage device from its hand while pinching it in his other hand. "Stop, or I will crush them all!" To be safe, he used the storage device as a bargaining chip for threat. Without either, the great venerate before him would not gain the upper hand. Boom! The giant tail brushed past above them, like a myriad of thunderbolts roaring overhead, carving out a horrifying, pitch-black crack. The lingering aftershock caused one's whole body to shiver. A trickle of cold sweat flowed down from Yue Mingzhu's forehead. They almost got crushed under the strike of the venerable in the heavenly human 5 declines. Deep in the sky, a pair of dim yellow eyes, faintly appearing, squinted watching Jiang Fan and Yue Mingzhu. Although he couldn't see them, he could keenly sense their existence. After all, it was the heavenly human 5 declines, just a step away from a sage. Even the sage's engravings had limited effect. "I do not like being threatened." Within the dark clouds, the great venerate's voice radiated majestically and indifferently. A pair of eyes shot forth a cold gleam that disregarded life. The giant tail that swept past them descended once more, targeting the two. However, as if sensing something, he glanced at Jiang Fan in surprise. The giant tail aiming to attack him also paused for a moment, but soon it accelerated again to crush down. Jiang Fan's heart skipped a beat, but he quickly realized. The opponent was gambling on him not daring to crush the space storage device. The Black Lotus of Tribulation, an object capable of suppressing an entire realm, would he easily give it up? He was merely testing Jiang Fan's resolve. His eyes showed determination, decisively exerting force. Let's see who is afraid of whom. Yet, while the two tested each other, a heavy cold snort like rolling thunder resonated throughout the surroundings. "I knew it was you." The sound embodied a vast angelic might, momentarily dispersing the sun-obscuring black yin qi, revealing the sky, though it was just a moment. Jiang Fan recognized it. The owner of the giant tail was none other than the Black Dragon Venerable. Wasn't this guy using the pretext of undergoing atavism and cultivating at a crucial time to seclude himself in his cave? How could he be in the interlayer world? The Black Dragon Venerable's dim yellow gaze concentrated, retracting the giant tail, gazing remotely towards the horizon. A towering middle-aged figure radiating faint golden light arrived via instantaneous movement. It was the Golden Scale Venerate. At this moment, he was filled with rage. "I should have guessed you were after the Black Lotus of Tribulation. To obtain the Black Lotus of Tribulation, you recklessly reopened the interlayer world." He was puzzled why, after successfully sealing the breach with Xingyuan Venerable's help, it was inexplicably reopened. Turns out the Black Dragon Venerable was secretly up to mischief. Jiang Fan frowned deeply. The hellish creature outbreak 10 days ago caused great casualties to spiritual Snake Mountain. On the way here, he personally witnessed countless Demon Clan corpses, yet to be collected, the disaster was hard to fathom. Those were fellow Demon Clan members. The Black Dragon Venerable, for the Black Lotus of Tribulation, was willing to unleash calamity. So what if I was? The Black Dragon Venerable crossed his arms, disdainfully eyeing the Golden Scale Venerate. The Golden Scale Venerate clenched his fists. You tore the rift open a second time, triggering hellish creatures, causing a dire situation to attract the Great Wine Sacrifice. To tackle that Sage Realm Hell creature, right, only then could you steal the Black Lotus of Tribulation. However, the ancestors of spiritual Snake Mountain left a will. This Black Lotus of Tribulation must never leave the interlayer world. And you were eyeing it, Jiang Fan finally understood. It turns out spiritual Snake Mountain was long aware of the interlayer world's existence, and knew of the Black Lotus of Tribulation. It's just that the Black Dragon Venerable, driven by greed, intended to take away this forbidden object, the Black Lotus of Tribulation. But he feared the Sage Realm Hell creatures, hence schemed a second hellish creature outbreak. If not for Jiang Fan's delay, the Black Dragon Venerable would have quietly taken the Black Lotus of Tribulation and nonchalantly returned to his cave. No one would suspect the one in atavistic seclusion. The Black Dragon Venerable sneered. Ancestral ancestors, this time with the descent of ancient giants, all of Central Earth is doomed. Can the ancestor jump out to help us? We can only rely on ourselves. This Black Lotus of Tribulation can help us nurture another great venerate. Why not? The Golden Scale Venerate said solemnly. What about the dead Demon Clan comrades? The Black Dragon Venerable dismissively remarked. Just some low-tier demon clans. Their death in exchange for a great venerate, why not? The Golden Scale Venerate laughed out of anger. Twisting facts and logic, claiming it's for Central Earth, you're clearly dissatisfied with my position as master of spiritual Snake Mountain, wanting to cultivate a great venerate against me. If you truly cared for the demon clan, you wouldn't incite the hellish creature outbreak. This time, if not for the West Sea Crown Prince's intervention, the entire demon continent would have fallen. And yet he shamelessly claimed it was for Central Earth. Hand over the Black Lotus of Tribulation, the Golden Scale Venerate ordered. This Black Lotus is not allowed to be taken out of the interlayer world. The Black Dragon Venerable's eyes showed ferocity. What if I don't? I've already entered atavism. You are no match for me. The Golden Scale Venerate snorted. How do you know without trying? With a swish, both vanished from their original positions. Ripples of terrifying energy reverberated from the sky. At this moment, Black Dragon Venerable's voice transmission reached Jiang Fan's ears. I'll hold off the Golden Scale Venerate. Hide outside, wait for my signal. Jiang Fan then understood why just now the Black Dragon Venerable paused when he attacked him. It turned out, early on, he recognized his identity through the drop of poison on Jiang Fan. Fan was wearing the middle-aged man's mask. Once he successfully left, no one would care if he took off the mask. However, just as he moved, the Golden Scale Venerate detected the anomaly. Is there someone else here? The Golden Scale Venerate's expression tightened. Before seeing the Black Lotus of Tribulation, he could not allow anyone to leave this place. Immediately, a dazzling golden light erupted from his body, illuminating the surrounding heavens and earth. Under the golden light, Jiang Fan and Yue Mingzhu's figures were revealed. It's you. The Golden Scale Venerate instantly recognized Jiang Fan and frowned deeply. Is the Black Lotus of Tribulation on you? Jiang Fan felt a tingling sensation on his scalp. This Black Lotus of Tribulation was indeed trouble. In an instant, he attracted the attention of two great venerates. The Black Dragon Venerable's face darkened, and his long tail swept behind him, slashing toward the Golden Scale Venerate, shouting, Leave quickly! Jiang Fan didn't dare to hesitate and hurriedly made his escape. Yue Mingzhu was incredulous, never expecting to draw the attention of two terrifying heavenly human 5 declines great venerates. Nor did he anticipate that the Black Lotus of Tribulation, containing tremendous fortune, would fall into Jiang Fan's hands. He had no choice. For safety's sake, he could only flee with Jiang Fan. The Golden Scale Venerate was certain that the Black Lotus of Tribulation was on Jiang Fan. While blocking the Black Dragon Venerable's massive tail, he urgently said, Sir, the Black Lotus of Tribulation cannot leave the interlayer world. Otherwise, it will bring calamity to Central Earth. You must leave it behind. Jiang Fan appeared hesitant. The Golden Scale Venerate's words likely weren't baseless. For generations, those of spiritual Snake Mountain knew of the interlayer world's existence and were aware of the Black Lotus of Tribulation. Yet no one had ever taken it out, proving that this item was indeed forbidden. However, if he took it out, wouldn't that offend the Black Dragon Venerable? If the other party got angry, he might not have a chance to leave. Thinking it over, he clasped his hands and said, "Sorry, Golden Scale Venerate, the Black Dragon Venerable is my master. I must follow orders." "Master." The Golden Scale Venerate frowned deeply, a hint of coldness in his eyes. "In that case, don't blame me." He had initially admired Jiang Fan, but unfortunately the other had already aided the wicked. The Black Dragon Venerable's expression subtly changed. If the Golden Scale Venerate attacked at all costs, he might not be able to protect Jiang Fan. A strike from a heavenly human 5 declines is something even a fraction of which Jiang Fan, who is in the nascent soul realm, cannot withstand. Thinking of this, a trace of heartache flashed in his eyes. With a flick of his tail, a large area of scales shed, flashing to Jiang Fan's side and adhered to his skin. Except for his 7 orifices, his whole body was wrapped in black scales. Jiang Fan was secretly startled. What was this? Wouldn't it be harmful? What made him even more uneasy was that the scales slowly sank beneath his skin, merging with his body. "With my black dragon armor for protection, you just leave." Armor. Only then did Jiang Fan feel slightly at ease and hurriedly left. The Golden Scale Venerate's eyes were sharp and he snorted. "Want to leave?" He suddenly spat out a breath of golden energy, which transformed into countless tiny golden snakes rushing towards Jiang Fan. "It's already too late, Golden Scale." The Black Dragon Venerable pushed forward with both palms, and a shadow of a giant black python appeared behind him. The giant python opened its mouth and sucked in, swallowing most of the golden snakes. Only a few fell. Among them, a golden snake struck toward Yue Mingzhu like lightning. Jiang Fan's face changed dramatically. This was a strike from a great venerate. For someone at the nascent soul realm, it's nothing short of destruction. Without thinking, the golden snake already struck him. His heart skipped a beat, thinking he was doomed. However, to his surprise, aside from some stinging, there was no additional pain. Looking down, the scales hidden beneath his skin had unknowingly emerged and attached to his body's surface. The golden snake shot at his chest, turning into a golden halo and dissipating. Jiang Fan was full of disbelief. This black dragon armor could actually withstand a great venerate's remaining might? He couldn't help but feel parched. This was a heaven-defying treasure. At this moment, another golden snake shot towards Yue Mingzhu. Jiang Fan didn't hesitate, pulling her into his arms and using his back to block the golden snake. Hiss! A distinctly sharper pain than before hit him, causing Jiang Fan to inhale sharply. The Black Dragon Venerable shouted, "Don't worry about others. This armor requires true spirit blood to activate, and with each defense, its protective power diminishes." Jiang Fan gritted his teeth against the pain, said no more, and instantly transported away with Yue Mingzhu. The Golden Scale Venerate's expression changed, but when he tried to pursue, the Black Dragon Venerable intercepted him. "Black Dragon, are you ignoring Central Earth? That thing is an ominous item even in the Hell Realm." The Black Dragon Venerable replied indifferently, "Central Earth can't be defended this time. I should also prepare for my own backup plan. Spiritual Snake Mountain must be in my hands." At the horizon, Jiang Fan flashed out and intense struggling came from his arms. The unsightly girl fiercely pushed him away, angrily scolding, "Let me go!" Her words carried a bit of anger. Jiang Fan released her and frowned slightly. What an ungrateful woman. He saved her, and instead of gratitude, she got angry. Yue Mingzhu scrubbed her arm, which had contact with Jiang Fan, full of shame and anger. "Who told you to touch me?" Besides Jiang Fan, she didn't want anyone to touch her. "Anyone?" Jiang Fan shrugged. "I'm not interested in ugly women, don't think too much." Yue Mingzhu was infinitely annoyed, but she knew she couldn't blame him. She seriously said, "I appreciate the intention, but don't worry about me next time. I only love my man and don't want any contact with anyone else." "Oh," Jiang Fan showed a hint of surprise. Unexpectedly, this unsightly girl was so chaste. It was quite the contrast with her enigmatic personality. He suddenly admired her a bit. Though her looks were lacking, her character was rare. He cupped his hands and said, "Apologies, it was a temporary measure. I'll be mindful in the future. We should leave. It's not safe to linger here." Besides the two great venerates fighting, the entire interlayer world continued to shake violently, showing signs of collapse and destruction. Yue Mingzhu nodded and proactively took out a large scroll, unfolding it and hopping on first. Then she pointed to a corner and said, "Sit far from me." "What's this about?" He jumped onto the scroll and sat in the far corner. The next moment, the scroll instantaneously transported 100 miles away, and then continued its instant transportation. In a few breaths, they traversed 1,000 miles, faster than his cloud shadow technique. Having a great venerate as a teacher is really something, Jiang Fan said with genuine envy. Yue Mingzhu glanced back at him and said, "You aren't simple either. Commanding hell creatures, that's not something an ordinary person can do." Previously, when Yue Mingzhu was pursued by hell creatures, Jiang Fan easily dispersed them, which led her to this conclusion. Jiang Fan smiled, saying nothing more. He took out the soul of the divinity transformation venerable from divine weapon state, as well as its space storage device. Yue Mingzhu curiously asked, "What are you planning?" Jiang Fan's eyes flickered as he said, "Naturally, I'm taking out the Black Lotus of Tribulation." Since the Black Lotus of Tribulation accidentally fell into his hands, how could he miss such an opportunity? Yue Mingzhu's eyes lit up. The fortune contained in the Black Lotus of Tribulation was rarely seen by her. She was also curious. However, when she looked at the soul of the divine weapon state's venerate, who had an angry expression, she shook her head quietly. It would be hard to pry open his mouth and get the space storage device's code. Jiang Fan looked at the soul and said lightly, "You know what I'm going to ask you about, right?" The divine weapon state venerate sneered coldly. "If I tell you, wouldn't I lose my value? Do you think I'm that stupid?" Jiang Fan said indifferently, "Have you forgotten why you were captured by me?" The expression of the venerate's soul stiffened, and he said in a deep voice, "Why can you use my domain?" He was subdued at the last moment because Jiang Fan used his domain that softened everything, rendering him powerless to resist. If Jiang Fan used it again, it would indeed soften his resistance and reveal the code. Jiang Fan did not answer him but said, "I'll give you two choices. First, hand over the code. Second, I'll figure out the code and then place you inside here." He took out the jade bottle used by Venerate Zinni to torment his father's soul, and a trace of white soul flame emanated pain across the bottle, even making the divinity transformation Venerate's soul suffer. The divine weapon state's divinity transformation Venerate was shocked and angry. Are you a demon cultivator? How could you use such cruel methods?" Jiang Fan's eyes grew cold. "When you diverted the trouble eastward, wanting the black dragon venerable to kill us to buy time to escape, did you not find yourself cruel? Choose, I only give you the time of 3 breaths. The divinity transformation Venerate's soul was constantly changing expression. Jiang Fan could replicate some of the effect that softened everything. It was hard to say. Even if not successful, there was no guarantee he didn't have other methods. But if he spoke, he would lose his value. Gritting his teeth, he said, "If I tell you, can you guarantee to let me go?" Jiang Fan shook his head. "I will not let you go. I can only promise not to kill you for now and wait until one day when you pose no threat to me, then I will release you." "Okay, your time of 3 breaths is up, make a choice." He dared to be so sure, besides being able to replicate the domain that softened everything, he actually had another method. That was the domain of the Golden Snake Saint Mother. Her domain could control a person to become a puppet. It should also have a temporary effect on the soul body in front of him. However, he didn't want to waste it. The divinity transformation Venerate's soul gritted his teeth and said, "Do I have any choice?" Tempered through 1,000 refinements. Beside them, Yue Mingzhu looked surprised. This guy's method really works. He didn't even have to exert any effort to get the code. She thought he would have to torture the opponent. Curiously, she leaned in and said, "Go ahead, let's see." "I have only heard of the Black Lotus of Tribulation, never thought it really existed." Jiang Fan, however, adjusted his posture, blocking Yue Mingzhu behind him. Yue Mingzhu laughed with irritation. "Can't I even look? Do you think I would rob you?" Jiang Fan didn't say much more, but used nascent soul power to manipulate the space storage device, sending it to 100 feet away from his body. He then shouted, "Tempered through 1,000 refinements?" Instantly. The space storage device opened, but before Jiang Fan could inspect what was inside it, an arrow containing the divinity transformation Venerates might suddenly shot out. A large area of space dented because of it. If not prepared, even a Venerate at the heavenly person decline could be killed on the spot. Yue Mingzhu's expression froze, then her hair stood on end as she showed signs of lingering fear. This space storage device has a trap. Now she understood Jiang Fan didn't want her to look, but had predicted the danger, hence placing himself in front of her body. Staring at Jiang Fan's thin back, imbued with a sense of extraordinary safety, she was momentarily dazed. This person is becoming more and more like Jiang Fan. He's just as cautious, has many shrewd methods, is wise, and is reliably dependable. Jiang Fan was coldly staring at the divinity transformation Venerate's soul, murder intent flickering in his eyes. "Just knew you wouldn't be so honest." The divine weapon states divinity transformation venerate in front of him might appear rough, but proved exceptionally cunning in prior encounters. That's why Jiang Fan was on guard. Didn't expect there really was trickery within. The divinity transformation venerate's soul's face turned somber, saying, "Why would you guard against a space storage device?" In the world, few divinity transformation venerates set traps within their space storage devices. Firstly, because divinity transformation venerates are extremely powerful. They rarely perish, leaving little chance for a space storage device to fall into others' hands. Secondly, the existence of traps makes it challenging to access items within. He thought the person before him would fall so hard, making years of preparation for his trap worthwhile. Unexpectedly, his caution led to despair. Jiang Fan said coolly, "It's simple because I've learned from my own experience." He still remembered the Jiangshan first-class building Deputy Yan Daeon's space storage device he got, recklessly opening it without realizing, nearly killed by sealed nascent soul power within. When opening other space storage devices now, he was highly alert. The divine weapon states divinity transformation venerates soul sighed deeply, resignedly closing his eyes. "Seems I'm unfortunate, handle me as you see fit." Jiang Fan didn't immediately deal with him. Rather, he cautiously examined the space storage device, ensuring the trap inside was triggered before probing its contents. With a thought, he extracted the Black Lotus of Tribulation. Jiang Fan was somewhat apprehensive towards this Black Lotus. Golden Scale Venerate regarded it as a forbidden object, could not be without reason. Moreover, the odd part was, the Black Lotus of Tribulation grew in black water without attracting hell creatures. Initially, Jiang Fan thought black water held danger, preventing hell creatures from approaching. Yet the divinity transformation venerate before him easily extracted it, not triggering danger. Thus, the danger likely resides in the Black Lotus of Tribulation itself. "Ugly girl, does the Black Lotus of Tribulation have any danger?" Jiang Fan pondered and asked. Yue Mingzhu glared at him. "You're the ugly boy." After recalling for a while, she slightly shook her head. "It poses no danger, simply a wonder of heaven and earth." "Is that so?" Jiang Fan thought, contemplating the single Black Lotus seed left at the top. Across the air, he emitted nascent soul power, encapsulating the Black Lotus seed. With his black dragon armor, even if danger exists, he should withstand most of it. Taking a deep breath, he exerted slightly. The Black Lotus seed was extracted. Moreover, no signs of danger appeared. "Am I overthinking?" Jiang Fan wondered, but regardless, he obtained the lotus seed capable of pushing heavenly person 4 declines to heavenly human 5 declines. Not having time for a thorough look, he placed the seed in a jade box. As for the rest of the Black Lotus of Tribulation, Jiang Fan observed from top to bottom, his gaze lingering on the lotus capsule and rhizome. Finally, when his eyes landed on the human-sized Black Lotus root, his pupils contracted sharply. His heart also gave a fierce thump. Sinister because the gray lotus root in front of him surprisingly had a human outline. A protruding head, faintly visible limbs, though still stuck together like a lump, already had the shape of a human. At first glance, Jiang Fan even thought it was a person. Yue Mingzhu also came closer, took a good look, and her heart trembled violently, blurting out, "What? What is this thing? Has the lotus root become a spirit?" Looking at the human-shaped lotus root, Jiang Fan inexplicably felt creepy. It felt as if it was alive. Thinking about the golden scale venerate's dread of it, Jiang Fan had already made up his mind. He never intended to take this thing out of the interlayer world. Now that he had the lotus seeds, it was time to deal with it. Glancing at the continually rolling ground, Jiang Fan threw it away without hesitation. "Ah, why did you throw it away?" Yue Mingzhu abruptly stopped the space scroll, incredulously said. The Black Lotus of Tribulation, obtained with great difficulty, was just thrown away like that. The soul of the divinity transformation venerable also widened its eyes. "Are you crazy?" Apart from the lotus seeds, the other parts of the Black Lotus of Tribulation were also invaluable treasures. Jiang Fan said lightly, "This thing is somewhat evil and shouldn't be taken into Central Earth." As he watched, the Black Lotus of Tribulation fell to the ground. The ground, surging like a monstrous wave, instantly submerged the Black Lotus of Tribulation, burying it deep in the earth. Witnessing this, Jiang Fan slightly relaxed. This evil thing should be buried underground forever. "Let's go." Jiang Fan withdrew his gaze. Yue Mingzhu reluctantly withdrew her gaze, glaring hard at Jiang Fan. "The sated do not know the hunger of the starving." She wanted to retrieve it, but the turbulent ground had probably crushed the black lotus of tribulation. Helplessly, she despondently maneuvered the space scroll to leave. Just as they were about to go, the rumbling between heaven and earth suddenly came to a halt. The turbulent ground abruptly calmed. The vibrating space barriers also instantly returned to normal. The entire world became silent in an instant, and that black lotus of tribulation that should have been buried deep underground unexpectedly broke through the earth, revealing a lotus pod. This sight made Jiang Fan, Yue Mingzhu, and the soul of the divinity transformation venerable all horrified. Staring at the black, quietly blooming lotus pod, Yue Mingzhu got goosebumps all over. This lotus, it's so sinister, she completely abandoned the idea of taking it away. The soul of the divinity transformation venerable also showed slight unease. This black lotus of tribulation is not normal. It's better to get far away from it as soon as possible. The two somewhat understood why Jiang Fan threw it away. This lotus truly exuded strangeness. But just at this time, several strong presences came from the horizon. Upon a closer look, 3 divinity transformation realm hell creatures were pursuing a group of people who were fleeing in disarray. Upon discovering them, they immediately headed over. Yue Mingzhu's expression changed, and she decisively activated the space scroll to escape. However, Jiang Fan suppressed the transmission with space origin and said, "Wait a second." Jiang Fan saw in that group of people rays of 9-colored sword shadows occasionally blasting backward. This was Jiang Wuya's sword intent. He was actually caught up in this too, being pursued by 3 divinity transformation realm hell creatures. Without hesitation, he summoned the Hell Soul Bell. Before seeing clearly who was among them, he resolutely shook the Hell Soul Bell. The piercing bell sounds radiated out. The 3 divinity transformation realm hell creatures chasing Jiang Wuya and his companions abruptly stopped in their tracks, glanced suspiciously toward Jiang Fan, and then decisively retreated. Jiang Wuya and several others took the opportunity to escape and came to face Jiang Fan. "West Sea Crown Prince, you were also caught in the space vibrations into the interlayer world." Jiang Wuya was greatly surprised. Jiang Fan nodded, then shook his head. "It's a bit different from you guys." During the first vibration, he was transmitted to a safe place. But then another wave of space power seemed to specifically target him, forcibly dragging him into the interlayer world. He didn't know if this was a coincidence. Seeing Jiang Fan was unharmed, Jiang Wuya breathed a slight sigh of relief and said, "Looks like you're lucky not encountering any danger. The ones who were swept in with us, only 3 of us are still alive. The others must all be dead." Yue Mingzhu rolled her eyes. The most dangerous thing in the interlayer world wasn't the hell creatures, but those 2 venerates of the demon race. They were almost done for in there. If it weren't for this West Sea Crown Prince timely capturing the soul of the divinity transformation venerable from the divine weapon state. "Wait," Yue Mingzhu suspiciously looked at Jiang Fan. "West Sea Crown Prince?" She could not recognize the West Sea Crown Prince, could she? The person in front of her couldn't possibly be the West Sea Crown Prince. If the name was fake, then was the appearance also fake? Watching Jiang Fan's back, Yue Mingzhu fell into contemplation. "They're all dead." Jiang Fan's heart sank. This was the last thing he wanted to see. Everyone who participated today was a late-stage, nascent soul expert. The fall of any one of them would mean many weak creatures of Central Earth would die under the ancient giants. Jiang Wuya nodded heavily, putting down Song Lingyu on his shoulder and said seriously, "There were 10 of us who were swept in together, now only 3 of us are left. Those swept in, their situations could only be bad, not good." At this time, Song Lingyu's right elbow was bitten off, and she was in a coma. There were strands of madness lingering around her. No doubt they must have encountered great peril, forcing Song Lingyu into madness. Without thinking, he took out the broken rabbit tail, plucked a rabbit hair, and sprinkled it on her severed arm. The wound instantly regenerated bone. Jiang Wuya was both surprised and grateful, said, "Thank you, West Sea Crown Prince, for your generosity. This kind of divine object isn't of low value." Jiang Fan nodded again and looked toward the 3rd person who escaped back with them. Only seeing made him realize on seeing, he narrowed his eyes. Because the 3rd person was actually the Soul Shadow Demon Lord. He was pale with many piercings in his body, the worst being his shredded shoulder. No wonder Jiang Wuya said all others were dead. With 2 divinity transformation venerables, they ended up like this, let alone the others who were swept in. Seeing Song Lingyu being healed, the Soul Shadow Demon Lord immediately shouted, "What are you standing there for? Heal me now." Jiang Fan squinted his eyes. Why should the rabbit hair he obtained be used for the soul shadow venerable? Anyway, he had already decided to turn against the Black Dragon Venerate, no longer needing to pretend to be controlled. He immediately put away the rabbit hair. The soul shadow demon lord's expression was uncertain, his voice lowered. What, have you forgotten your identity? Jiang Fan didn't say much, just secretly mobilized 3 top-grade spirit swords. Working with Jiang Wuya, they might not necessarily be inferior to the Soul Shadow Demon Lord. However, the Soul Shadow Demon Lord's glance suddenly shifted, and his attention was captured by the Black Lotus of Tribulation beneath. His pupils shrank in shock. The Black Lotus of Tribulation? A strong greed flashed through his eyes. Demon Lord was full of disbelief. The Black Lotus of Tribulation has long been a legend at spiritual Snake Mountain, rumored to have the miraculous power to reverse the ordinary into extraordinary. There are also rumors that it is the ominous flower of the Hell Realm. I originally thought it was just a myth. Unexpectedly, it's right in front of me. What's even more surprising is that Jiang Fan and Yue Mingzhu didn't pick it. Thinking of this, how could he hesitate any longer? Decisively, he flickered in front of the Black Lotus of Tribulation and grabbed the lotus flower, pulling it with force. Jiang Fan's face slightly changed, speaking in a deep voice. Don't pull it! But the Soul Shadow Demon Lord was already blinded by the great opportunity and wouldn't heed Jiang Fan's advice. Using all his strength, he gave it a fierce pull. Perhaps because the roots of the Black Lotus of Tribulation hadn't fully taken hold, far easier than the Divinity Transformation Venerable of Divine Weapon State. He pulled it out in one go. Ha ha ha! The Black Lotus of Tribulation is in my hands now. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord laughed loudly in excitement. It seems fate is with me, Soul Shadow. Ha ha! With this Black Lotus of Tribulation, I might become a great venerate one day. As he spoke, he glanced at Jiang Wuya and quickly placed it into the space storage device. His heart was assured. An unprecedented sense of comfort surged in his heart. Although he had already cultivated to the realm of Demon Venerable, holding an extraordinary position at spiritual Snake Mountain, with Black Dragon Venerable and Golden Scale Venerate above, what does his heavenly person decline strength amount to? Even if Black Dragon Venerable becomes the master of spiritual Snake Mountain in the future, he will have no chance to rise. For there are several Demon Venerables under Black Dragon Venerable, all stronger than him. Now it's different. With this Black Lotus of Tribulation, his future is full of endless possibilities. Jiang Fan's face sank. The Black Lotus of Tribulation cannot be taken to Central Earth, just at this moment. Overhead, a black light and a golden light intertwined, bursting forth with waves of destruction. Black Dragon Venerable and Golden Scale Venerate had arrived at their location. Black Dragon Venerable scolded. Why are you still here? He struggled to fend off Golden Scale Venerate, while Jiang Fan, surprisingly, stopped here without leaving. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord was startled. Even Black Dragon Venerable had come to the interlayer world. Wasn't he supposed to be in ancestral return, needing to be in retreat? But quickly, he felt a chill in his heart. The fact that he obtained the Black Lotus of Tribulation must not be known to Black Dragon Venerable. Otherwise, how would he have a chance? And the Jiang Fan, Jiang Wuya, and that young girl before him must die. A trace of ferocity appeared in his eyes. Recalling Jiang Fan's previous refusal to give him rabbit fur for healing, he sneered wickedly. Jiang Fan's actions meant he had regained his memory or perhaps had never lost it at all. If he told Black Dragon Venerable, the other would never forgive him. After all, Jiang Fan knew about the return of Golden Scale Venerate's daughter. And Golden Scale Venerate was right there before him. Without needing to lift a finger, Black Dragon Venerable would instantly kill him. Then he could seize the opportunity to kill the girl and use the demon race treasure at hand to instantly kill Jiang Wuya, allowing him to monopolize the Black Lotus of Tribulation. With a quick plan flashing through his mind, he immediately said, Venerable. Only then did Black Dragon Venerable notice the Soul Shadow Demon Lord and said, You're here too, even better. Protect Wang Qingxiao and let him leave. He has the Black Lotus of Tribulation, not a single bit must be lost. Otherwise I will question you. What? The accusation swallowed back, the Soul Shadow Demon Lord forced it down. His heart was instantly in a chaotic panic. No wonder Black Dragon Venerable appeared in the interlayer world. Turns out he was here for the Black Lotus of Tribulation, and he entrusted Jiang Fan to take away the Black Lotus of Tribulation. Thus, as long as Jiang Fan reports truthfully, not only will the Black Lotus of Tribulation be out of his reach, but he will also incur Black Dragon Venerable's wrath for greed. Yes, my lord. Senior Soul Shadow, please protect my departure. However, to the Soul Shadow Demon Lord's utter shock, Jiang Fan did not expose him, leaving him stunned for a moment before nervously nodding. Oh, sure, okay. Venerate, I take my leave. With a heart in turmoil, he promptly escorted Jiang Fan and the others away from the battlefield of the two Venerates without delay. As they departed, or more accurately, as the Black Lotus of Tribulation was pulled out once more, the interlayer world shook again. Moreover, as they drew closer to the crevice exit, the tremors became increasingly frightening. The spatial barrier resonated with tearing humming booms, as if the entire world was about to collapse. 2 hours later. The crevice was in sight, and the Soul Shadow Demon Lord couldn't resist stopping. His gaze deep, he observed Jiang Fan, asking, "What do you mean?" Jiang Fan met his gaze, initiating mute Zen, and said, "You have something I need." The Soul Shadow Demon Lord squinted, communicating through thought. "You wish to make a deal with me?" This was within his expectations. Jiang Fan concealing the Black Lotus of Tribulation certainly was with intention. As for the intention, he had some guesses. Jiang Fan nodded, saying, "You take the Black Lotus of Tribulation, and in exchange, I need information about Ling Shu and Liu Li." Indeed, Jiang Fan was after these two girls. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord weighed the situation. If he divulged information about Ling Shu and Liu Li, it would count as betraying Black Dragon Venerable, and if discovered, the path would lead to death. Fleeing to any great state would be useless. But if he refused to deal with Jiang Fan, then killing them to silence was the only option. Currently, Jiang Fan had Jiang Wuya by his side, making it difficult to kill them both. Moreover, if he killed Jiang Fan, how could he answer to Black Dragon Venerable? Thus, after brief deliberation, he gritted his teeth and said, "They are still alive." After all, monopolizing the Black Lotus of Tribulation already counts as betrayal of Black Dragon Venerable. One more betrayal makes no difference in consequence. Jiang Fan's hanging heart finally settled. Previously, he only speculated the two women were hostages, and now he was reassured. He let out a long breath. He further asked, "Where are they?" The Soul Shadow Demon Lord unhesitatingly said, "In Black Dragon Venerable's cave dwelling." Jiang Fan suddenly understood. It turned out he had been very close to them once. After thinking for a bit, Jiang Fan added, "The cave dwelling should be dangerous, right?" The Soul Shadow Demon Lord replied, "Naturally." His eyes flickered as he said, "Besides danger, there are some trapping mechanisms. If you get trapped, won't you expose me? How about allowing me to lead you there?" Jiang Fan's mind was clear as a mirror. This guy plans to use the cave dwelling's traps to silence him. With this, the luck transfer lock on the Soul Shadow Demon Lord can come into effect. If real danger is encountered, the Soul Shadow Demon Lord can take the brunt for him. However, before this, he must find a way to leave the Black Lotus of Tribulation in the interlayer world. It must not be allowed to return to Central Earth. His gaze shifted, looking at Jiang Wuya beside him, and a plan formed in his mind. He communicated via thought, "Then I leave it to you, Senior. Once the people are rescued, everything between us is settled," ending the mute Zen. He turned to look at Jiang Wuya, who looked over in surprise, their eyes meeting. In Jiang Wuya's mind, Jiang Fan's voice appeared. "Senior Jiang, it's about the safety of Central Earth. I need you to lend a hand to Wang Lord." Fan nodded and informed him of the rumors about the Black Lotus of Tribulation. Already passionate about fighting evil, Jiang Wuya was even more agitated than Jiang Fan. "Why didn't you say so earlier? If I had known it was so ominous, I would have stopped him from pulling it out just now," Jiang Fan said. "It's not too late now. You contend with him, and I'll find a way to get it." Jiang Wuya nodded silently and continued on his way as if nothing had happened. Shortly after, they arrived in front of the rift. Through the rift, they could already see the underground world of spiritual Snake Mountain. And as they were about to leave the interlayer world with the Black Lotus of Tribulation, the space barrier that had been bearing the load finally collapsed. With a tearing sound, the vault suddenly ripped open like a bag stretched to its limit, splitting into an endless black rift. A terrifying space storm surged in, sweeping away countless yin-chi into the void. Soul Shadow Demon Lord's face changed drastically, exclaiming, "World collapse!" His scalp tingled, and without a word, he instantly escaped. Once such a small world collapses, it will not stop and will soon be torn to pieces, and everything inside will be exiled into the terrifying void. However, as soon as he made the instantaneous movement, Jiang Wuya's eyes flashed with brilliance. He raised his fingers and waved, cutting off his instantaneous movement with several nine-colored sword intent, forcing him out. "What are you doing?" Soul Shadow Demon Lord shouted anxiously and angrily. "World collapse is no joke." Behind Jiang Wuya, the divine ring flickered as he extended his hand, saying, "Bring out that black lotus. Those who see it should share it." Soul Shadow Demon Lord was slightly stunned, not expecting Jiang Wuya to suddenly want to share at that moment. Listening to the sound of the vaults collapsing becoming more intense, he urged, "After we get out, I'll share it with you." Jiang Wuya snorted, "Share it now or don't think about leaving." With that said, several sword intents flew out to slash towards Soul Shadow Demon Lord. "Get lost!" Soul Shadow Demon Lord shouted, and a phantom emerged behind him, charging forward. It crashed through the sword shadows, causing Jiang Wuya to step back repeatedly. "Measure virtue and evil." Jiang Wuya decisively activated his domain. In the space appeared a scale, on one side filled with vast righteous chi, and on the other was Soul Shadow Demon Lord's heart. As the scale weighed, it descended sharply to the right. Soul Shadow Demon Lord's face stiffened, and he involuntarily raised his sharp claws to strike his own heavenly spirit cover. With a dull crash, his head was opened with a crack, blood and brain matter gushing out. The excruciating pain snapped Soul Shadow Demon Lord back to reality, both shocked and angry. "Jiang Wuya, are you courting death? Erase memory." He also decisively activated his domain, with the divine ring behind him flickering intermittently. However, before the domain could activate, a sudden stabbing pain in his chest caused him to let out a miserable howl. The domain being activated also scattered subsequently. Before he could understand the situation, Jiang Wuya attacked again. He had no choice but to passively engage in battle at close range. Not realizing in the least, Jiang Fan not far away had withdrawn a dagger from his chest. It was he who secretly used the luck transfer lock to trip him. Watching the two into a deadlock, Jiang Fan turned to Yue Mingzhu. At this moment, Yue Mingzhu was taking advantage of the battle between the two, starting to flee. "Ugly woman, lend me your sage's engraving," Jiang Fan hurriedly called after her. Yue Mingzhu glared at him, saying, "Stay and wait for death. This interlayer world won't last long." Jiang Fan said, "I still have important things to do." Yue Mingzhu hesitated for a moment but took out the stone and tossed it to Jiang Fan, saying, "Then take care," then ran without looking back. Jiang Fan held the stone, immediately placing it on his forehead. The sage's engraving activated again, allowing him to enter the invisibility state. He decisively took out the void fishing rod, inwardly reciting Soul Shadow Demon Lord's space storage device, and then threw out the space storage ring. The next moment the hook and line flew out. At this time, Soul Shadow Demon Lord was fiercely fighting with Jiang Wuya, but his senses were exceptionally powerful. Immediately noticed a fine void appear in front of his chest, from which a fishhook flew out, probing into his arms. He instantly realized that the fishhook was targeting the space storage device, and his face changed dramatically. He slapped his hand at the fish line, yelling angrily, "Who is it?" Jiang Wuya's eyes flashed brilliantly. "Measure virtue and evil." The activation of the domain caused Soul Shadow Demon Lord to temporarily lose his consciousness instantly. Taking the opportunity, the void fishing rod hooked away the space storage device, which fell into Jiang Fan's hands. Without thinking, he activated a space secret technique to transmit the space storage device to the void rift in the vault. With a muffled crash, after falling into the void, the space storage device was shredded and exploded by wild space power. Everything inside scattered out. Those not hard enough turned to powder in the space power. After completing this step, Jiang Fan removed the sage's engraving, continued acting as an idle observer, diplomatically advising, "All bark and no bite, nothing is achieved." After hearing this, Jiang Wuya knew that Jiang Fan had successfully dealt with the Black Lotus of Tribulation, then also withdrew, saying, "The world is about to collapse. We'll fight again once we're out." "Let's go." He pulled Jiang Fan for instantaneous movement and left. This wasn't a mere excuse. Indeed, as the Black Lotus of Tribulation was exiled into the void, the interlayer world completely collapsed. The tearing boom was deafening, echoing throughout every corner of the world. Countless huge rifts appeared densely. This interlayer world, which existed since the creation of the Central Earth realm, finally reached its limit. Soul Shadow Demon Lord, upon regaining consciousness, quickly slapped his chest. Realizing the loss of the space storage device, he roared repeatedly, "Who did this?" Responding to him was the space turbulence erupting from all directions. His face changed, and he hurriedly also instantly escaped. At the same time, the entire interlayer world descended into chaos. Countless hell creatures, sensing the world's impending doom, desperately rushed towards the central Earth realm. However, in front of the 1,000-foot rift in central Earth stood the strong of the demon race in various states. Among them were Iceheart Venerate and the young Emperor. Those rushing out all perished at their hands. Especially the young Emperor, with a mere flick of his finger, he extinguished everything, leaving them no chance to escape into the outer world. And the interlayer world finally sank into complete collapse. A thunderous explosion, shaking the entire demon continent, swept out from within the 1,000-foot rift. Jiang Fan and Jiang Wuya, rushing to the rift, were swept away by the sound waves mixed with space powers, thrown 1,000 miles away, crashing into a mountain. Jiang Fan felt like his internal organs were about to rupture, and more terrifyingly, half of his cheek had been sliced off by space powers. Only then did the boundless pain flood in like a torrent, so severe that he couldn't help but groan miserably. He hurriedly took out a pinch of rabbit fur to cover his face. The pain rapidly alleviated, with flesh quickly regenerating. A moment later, his cheek was restored. He was thankful that only half of his cheek was shaved off. If it had been slightly in another direction, half his skull would have been gone. In that case, he'd be dead, and even rabbit fur wouldn't help. Turning to look at Jiang Wuya beside him, his injuries were equally appalling, his body riddled like a sieve by space powers. Yet Song Lingyu was tightly protected in his arms. Jiang Fan's eyes were filled with admiration. In terms of a gentleman, if Jiang Wuya was second, no one in Taikang's state could claim to be first. He decisively took out a pinch of rabbit fur to place on Jiang Wuya for healing. Seeing the injuries rapidly heal, he finally had time to look towards the interlayer world. Through the 1,000-foot rift, what remained of the interlayer world? Only a dark void pulverized into nothingness. The earth was torn into pieces, floating in the pitch-black void. Countless hell creatures also drifted in the vast darkness. The lucky ones had already been shattered to bits in the collapse. The unfortunate ones remained alive. They would be banished into the depths of the void, watching themselves wither away in despair. Jiang Fan was shocked beyond words. This interlayer world was thus destroyed. There were still some questions lingering in his heart, yet to be unraveled. Firstly, why was there an interlayer world? The demon continent should have been derived from the hell realm. Didn't the 9 ancient saints discover such a massive hidden danger buried underground? With their ability to create a world, they shouldn't be completely unaware. Secondly, what happened to the terrifying creature capable of facing the great wine sacrifice? Jiang Fan and the others had taken the Black Lotus of Tribulation, causing the world to collapse, yet the other party didn't stop them at all. As he pondered, a bloody hand suddenly emerged from the edge of the rift, gripping the edge and crawling back from the void with difficulty. Previously, he was pursued and killed by hell creatures, his body covered in penetrating wounds and his shoulder shredded. After the recent world collapse, his injuries became even more grotesque. That shoulder was completely detached, revealing the sinister bones, and his head had several deep cuts visible to the bone. Blood spilled all over his face. Wang Chengxiao! The person was none other than the sole shadow demon lord who barely survived. He roared furiously, "Return my space storage device!" Even a fool could guess it was Jiang Fan who took the space storage device and threw it into the void. In the end, he not only suffered injuries but also lost the Black Lotus of Tribulation, along with his lifetime accumulation of resources. At this moment, Jiang Wuya's injuries had recovered. He blocked Jiang Fan and snorted, "If you're not satisfied, we can fight again." Jiang Fan waved his hand and said, "No need to be tense." He looked at the Soul Shadow Demon Lord and said, "Our transaction is still valid." The Soul Shadow Demon Lord was about to angrily shout when Jiang Fan looked him in the eye, initiating a mute Zen dialogue. "Although the Black Lotus of Tribulation is gone, the seeds are in my hands." The furious expression of the Soul Shadow Demon Lord quickly subsided, replaced by a touch of excitement. The most important part of the Black Lotus of Tribulation is the seeds. He transmitted his thoughts. "Is our transaction still valid then?" "Of course." The Soul Shadow Demon Lord was overjoyed, his face showing renewed smile as he transmitted his thoughts. "That's good." After a pause, he frowned and said, "But regarding the Black Dragon Venerable, how will you explain?" The Black Dragon Venerable wouldn't care how Jiang Fan lost the Black Lotus of Tribulation. If he knew the Black Lotus of Tribulation was gone, he would mercilessly kill Jiang Fan. "Let's go to the Black Dragon Venerable's lair immediately. Once the matter is settled, I'll give you the seeds and I'll leave the demon continent, Jiang Fan said without hesitation. Given the choice to discard the Black Lotus of Tribulation, he naturally considered the consequences and devised a strategy to handle them. But just at this moment, there was another unexpected turn in the void. A black and a gold silhouette collided, struggling to escape across the shattered earth. Once the figures separated, they were surprisingly the Black Dragon Venerable and Golden Scale Venerate. The Black Dragon Venerable hurriedly scanned around. Seeing Jiang Fan alive, he immediately asked, "How's that thing preserved?" When the interlayer world collapsed, he worried Jiang Fan might be buried in the void. Unexpectedly, he was unscathed. Jiang Fan remained calm and said, "Reporting to the Venerate, preserved intact." The Soul Shadow Demon Lord's heart pounded. Goodness, he dared to deceive a Supreme of the Heavenly Human 5 Declines face to face. At this moment, the Black Dragon Venerable looked at him, throwing a questioning glance. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord swallowed his saliva, and gritting his teeth, he followed to Lai and said, "Safe and sound." Only then did the Black Dragon Venerable breathe a sigh of relief. But now wasn't the time to relax completely, because Golden Scale Venerate was also eyeing Jiang Fan. Before Golden Scale Venerate could act, the Black Dragon Venerable took the initiative against him, shouting, "Soul Shadow, escort Jiang Fan to my lair." After speaking, a little black snake drilled out from his arm, flying toward Jiang Fan, saying, "Hide inside my restriction." The Soul Shadow Demon Lord showed a surprised expression. This little black snake was the key to many restrictions in the Black Dragon Venerable's lair. Not only could it unlock the restrictions holding Ling Shu and Liu Li, but also many treasures possessed by the Black Dragon Venerable. Usually, the Black Dragon Venerable would not let outsiders keep this key. Even his most trusted confidants rarely had the chance to touch the key. Now, he felt Jiang Fan was amnesiac, letting him take charge, thus breaking the rule and giving it to Jiang Fan for safekeeping. Jiang Fan froze for a moment, almost laughing out loud like a pig. He was worrying about how to get into the Black Dragon Venerable's lair, and the other party let him in, handing over the key as well. Heavens and earth bear witness this key wasn't tricked by Jiang Fan. The Black Dragon Venerable gave it himself. He grabbed the little black snake and cupped his hands. "Yes, sir." Then he ran off under the baffled gaze of the demon race and various states' reinforcements. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord's eyes flashed, also hurrying to follow. At this moment, Golden Scale Venerate was anxious. The departure of the Black Lotus of Tribulation had already triggered the collapse of the interlayer world. Its ominous hue was even more confirmed. He immediately shouted, "Hear my command, demon race strongmen. Intercept Wang Chengxiao, if disobeyed, kill." Soon after, he addressed the reinforcements from various states. "Everyone, my spiritual snake mountain has a major affair to handle. Please remain calm, and once the matter settles, I will reward you based on merit." He then tried to push back the Black Dragon Venerable, intending to chase after Jiang Fan. But as he took a few steps forward, he was blocked by the Black Dragon Venerable. Jiang Wuya heard this, his face changed, and he got up to follow Jiang Fan, but was stopped by a gentle voice. "The demon race's internal matters, outer state should not meddle." Ice Heart Venerate gently furrowed her willow eyebrows. She couldn't quite comprehend why this West Sea Crown Prince got involved in such a major affair, causing two Supremes of the Heavenly Human 5 Declines to fight over him. But precisely because the matter was severe, Jiang Wuya realized he and others must not muddle into it, to avoid entangling themselves with vast cause and effect. As for the West Sea Crown Prince, he could only rely on himself for luck. Getting involved in the struggle between two Venerates, she couldn't imagine how a nascent soul realm could survive. Boom! Suddenly, the elusive law fluctuation erupted again, and there appeared a middle-aged woman in a cyan-long dress, her hair styled in a hanging mane, battling with a figure completely black as ink. The sage law created by their collision was devastating to one side of the world. The 1,000-foot rift instantly expanded to 10,000 feet. The remnants of the ripples further tore the underground world's space, scaring the strongmen of various states into fleeing in panic. If rolled up by space power again, they wouldn't just be pulled into the underground world but would be banished into the void. Ice Heart Venerate's pretty face changed slightly, decisively retreating far away. Even Golden Scale Venerate and Black Dragon Venerable's faces changed. They temporarily abandoned their fight, blinking away from the law's ripples. Only the young emperor, emanating terrifying thunder light, akin to the brilliant sun of the nine heavens, stood with arms crossed before the rift. The sweeping wave of sage law he effortlessly shattered with a casual wave. His eyes fixed on the inky shadow, his gaze radiating dominance, he calmly said, "A sage from the Hell Realm? Let me experience how you differ from the sages of my central earth." He leaped forth, transforming into a fearsome thunderbolt plunging into the void, willingly engaging in a battle with the Hell Realm's sage. Heart Venerate couldn't help but cover her rosy lips, her crystal eyes flickering with traces of shock. Golden Scale Venerate also showed a shocked expression, saying, "Young Emperor, come back quickly." Black Dragon Venerable was stunned by the young Emperor's reckless action, saying, "He's truly a madman." It's a battle among sages. How dare a divinity transformation realm guy join in? With one wrong move, he could be reduced to ashes. Under their gaze, the young Emperor directly charged into the battlefield, his foot stepping down, and a curtain of thunderous sky pressed downward. It actually suppressed the laws of the two combatants. Iceheart Venerate's beautiful eyes gleamed with dazzling light. "I have long heard that the young Emperor has already touched upon the Thunder Dao Law. I thought it was just hearsay, but he has truly reached this level. Without becoming a sage, he has cultivated the Thunder Path to the pinnacle, unparalleled in Central Earth." Black Dragon Venerable squinted his eyes, a few shades of battle intent rolling in them. "If I could take another step in restoring ancestral power, I could reach his level." Golden Scale Venerate's eyes were filled with complexity. He has not restored ancestral power, and his strength is far inferior to the young Emperor. Even though they are both experiencing the heavenly human 5 declines, the strength gap between them is huge, and the battle in the void quickly became invisible. Only the collision of laws and extreme thunder path could be felt. A cup of tea later, with a loud bang, a pitch-black corpse smoking fell into the central earth realm, crashing into the ground. Terrifying thunder fire continued to burn his body, and strands of law were also destroying his corpse. "Is this all for a Hell Realm sage?" The young Emperor floated back in midair, looking down at the charred corpse. He said indifferently, "Truly boring." The 3 Venerates witnessing this scene were shocked beyond words. The young Emperor and the Great Wine Sacrifice joined forces to kill a Hell Realm sage. Apart from the young Emperor's dim thunder light, he was unharmed. Even though the young Emperor's Thunder Dao is a restraint against Hell creatures, this is too astounding. Whoosh, the Great Wine Sacrifice in a blue long skirt stepped into the air to return, deeply gazing at the young Emperor, saying, "Below the sage, no one is your match." She said this conservatively. Should she encounter a sage like the compassionate sage, who is heavily injured, perhaps even he might not overpower the young Emperor. However, there are other reasons why she and the young Emperor could slay the Hell Realm sage together. Her eyes flickered, she approached the charred corpse. With a flick of her finger, a line of law entered the charred corpse, which immediately dissipated into black smoke, leaving only a green leaf the size of a wash basin on the ground. It was a lotus leaf. The Great Wine Sacrifice picked up the lotus leaf, her eyes squinted. "A leaf from the Black Lotus of Tribulation. We were only fighting against one of its leaves." She was always fighting the black sticky sage, clearly feeling that ever since the interlayer world collapsed, its power of laws had been weakening continuously. Therefore, she and the young Emperor could easily slay it together. Otherwise, a true sage wouldn't fall so easily. Golden Scale Venerate came over, his gaze fixed on the lotus leaf, his expression becoming increasingly grave. One leaf yet shows the strength of a sage. The main body of the Black Lotus of Tribulation, what kind of existence is it? "This item absolutely must not be brought into Central Earth," he hastily said. "Great Wine Sacrifice, the Crown Prince of West Sea has already taken the Black Lotus of Tribulation away. Please, Great Wine Sacrifice, intervene to remove potential threats." As long as the Great Wine Sacrifice is willing to act, the Black Dragon Venerable won't succeed. Unexpectedly, the Great Wine Sacrifice merely silently watched the void for a while, then waved her hand. "You don't need to worry blindly." Saying this, she waved her hand at the 1000 FT crack in space, sealing the torn spatial barrier. She exhaled a breath, couldn't help but laugh. "The matter of the interlayer world ends here." Looking at the black lotus leaf in her hand, she raised her finger to write a line on it, then threw it to Golden Scale Venerate. "Given to the most meritorious ally this time." Golden Scale Venerate took it and couldn't help but show a jealous look. It was actually the sage's engraving from the Great Wine Sacrifice. No, it also contained the law of the Black Lotus of Tribulation, equivalent to 2 sages' engravings. This reward, even he was tempted. "All right, you can all disperse now." The great wine sacrifice waved her hand cheerfully, performing instantaneous movement to leave. Golden Scale Venerate frowned. He mentioned that the Black Lotus of Tribulation is in the hands of the West Sea Crown Prince, already brought into Central Earth. The great wine sacrifice was so reckless as not to confront it. If that's the case, he could only handle it himself. His eyes flashed as he performed instantaneous movement, remarkably heading towards Black Dragon Venerable's lair. Black Dragon Venerable wouldn't let him succeed, so he immediately followed. Iceheart Venerate glanced at the young emperor and asked, "Aren't you leaving yet?" The young emperor had initially said he would leave after dealing with the hell creatures in the southern path, yet he lingered until now. The young emperor, with hands behind his back, scanned his surroundings, his lightning eyes flickering, coldly saying, "While performing the Thunder Dao's source just now, I suddenly sensed someone I've long wanted to kill here." Black Dragon Venerable's lair. They appeared deep within the lair, a black throne looming in the shadows. It was the very place where Black Dragon Venerable met Jiang Fan. Soul Shadow Demon Lord stared at the black throne, eyes burning hot, saying, "See that throne? Within the throne is a small world. Liu Li and Ling Shu are trapped inside. The little black snake you hold can open it." Similar small worlds are not unfamiliar to Jiang Fan. Once in the divinity transformation relics of North Sea, there was a small world where Jiang Fan obtained many dragon marrow seeds. Looking at the throne, Jiang Fan felt ashamed, realizing he was once so close to Li Lingshu and Liu Li. He decisively took out the little black snake, but he hadn't forgotten that Soul Shadow Demon Lord harbors malicious intentions. His eyes flickered as Jiang Fan said, "How exactly do we do this?" Soul Shadow Demon Lord candidly said, "It's simple, just sit on the throne. This throne has a destructive restriction. Apart from Black Dragon Venerable, no one else can sit. Only by holding the little black snake can one suppress the restriction upon it." Jiang Fan's face showed suspicion, saying, "We'll sit together," Soul Shadow Demon Lord helplessly said. "You and I are now like grasshoppers on the same rope, both having betrayed Black Dragon Venerable. If I harm you, it's merely if the lips are gone, the teeth will be cold. Come now. Time is urgent." He walked to the throne. Jiang Fan dared not delay. Who knows when Black Dragon Venerable might return. Holding the little black snake, he approached the throne, pulling Soul Shadow Demon Lord to sit on it. Throughout guarding against Soul Shadow Demon Lord, if he showed any hesitation, Jiang Fan would perform instantaneous movement to escape. Fortunately, nothing unusual happened. As Jiang Fan sat on the throne, a terrifying restriction erupted from it. It was an attack of the heavenly human 5 declines. But upon sensing the little black snake, the terrifying restriction brewing calmed down. Jiang Fan broke out in a cold sweat. If the restriction had activated, it would truly be perilous. Soon after, a force of space enveloped him. The space before his eyes began to change. What met his gaze was a dazzling, treasure-filled massive treasury. Upon seeing a mysterious purple crystal ore in the shape of a giant python, permeating the entire cave dwelling. The purple crystal ore was covered with various rare spiritual plants, all used by the demon race. Jiang Fan didn't recognize most of them, but there was a patch of azure blue plants resembling flames, with a small section of the rhizome exposed, astonishingly in the shape of a baby. This is the demon infant fruit, a heaven-defying divine fruit capable of enhancing cultivation in the demon emperor realm, extinct in Taikang state for 1,000 years. Back in the divinity transformation relics, he had only managed to acquire a few. Yet now, under the nourishment of the crystal ore, they grew like wild grass, numbering at least 100. And these were merely spiritual plants casually planted by the Black Dragon Venerable. The true treasures were within the crystal ore. The long crystal ore had been carved into individual crystal chambers, each protected by powerful magic restrictions. A glance revealed nothing but rare treasures. Most of them were heavenly materials and earthly treasures, some exuding such strong spiritual pressure that it was the most Jiang Fan had ever seen in his life. Presumably, they were great supplements for demon monarchs at the divinity transformation realm. Let alone the demon race, even Jiang Fan, a member of the human clan, was moved. Soul Shadow Demon Lord's eyes were already burning, and his breathing was rapid as he said, "This is a celestial crystal ore that Black Dragon Venerable accidentally obtained. It possesses incredible abilities, able to store heavenly materials and earthly treasures, preserving their spiritual essence for millennia. When Black Dragon Venerable acquired the crystal mine, It already contained many powerful heavenly materials from the outer world, which helped him rise from an ordinary demon monarch to rivaling Jinlin Venerate. Jiang Fan was secretly astonished. There really are so many great things from the outer heavens. The Jian family also obtained an arena from the outer world, thereby establishing a familial legacy comparable to the Three God sect and the Seven Great Sects. The Star Mountain in returning ruins state also occupied an immortal mountain from the immortal realm, establishing the leadership of the human clan in that state. Currently, Black Dragon Venerable also relied on the mysterious crystal mine from the outer heavens to become the supreme of a state. Soul Shadow Demon Lord, gazing at the array of heavenly materials and earthly treasures, said fervently, "Most of the outer world's materials have already been used by Black Dragon Venerable. But there's still one material left that Black Dragon Venerable has been reluctant to use." Saying this, he gazed eagerly at the little black snake in Jiang Fan's hand. Jiang Fan understood, puzzled. "You want to take Black Dragon Venerable's treasure? That is not a wise decision. If you take his things, he can track you through his senses. No matter where you flee, even to the ends of the earth, it won't help." The divinity transformation venerables have a terrifyingly keen sense for auras. Back then, when he took True Word Venerable's life-saving lotus, she could track his aura from Taikang State to the Great Wilderness State, and then again to Hunyuan State. True Word Venerable had such capability, let alone Black Dragon Venerable. If Soul Shadow Demon Lord dared to take it, it would be a dead end. Soul Shadow Demon Lord didn't explain. Rubbing his hands, he said, "Do me this favor and I'll immediately tell you the whereabouts of those two girls. And I can also provide them with a fortuitous encounter." Jiang Fan frowned slightly. This guy really is greedy. Having a Black Lotus of Tribulation lotus seed wasn't enough. He had to covet Black Dragon Venerable's treasures. But time was pressing. Black Dragon Venerable could return at any time, and he had no time to argue further. He said in a deep voice, "3 items at most." Soul Shadow Demon Lord was overjoyed, saying, "3 will be enough. Follow me." He flickered to the far end of the crystal mine. There was a rather spacious crystal chamber, with a water pit in the middle filled with pure, clear liquid. Despite the crystal ore and restrictions, Jiang Fan could smell the rich, verdant aroma of herbs and plants. "Just fill this up." Soul Shadow Demon Lord handed Jiang Fan a palm-sized gourd. "With the little black snake in your hand, you can ignore the restrictions and enter." Jiang Fan didn't take it, but instead handed the little black snake to him. "Go in yourself." Soul Shadow Demon Lord hurriedly backed away, not daring to touch the little black snake, exclaiming, "No! This little black snake is sentient, complying only with Black Dragon Venerable's command, so it only listens to you. If I dare to touch it, the little black snake will lose its ability to bypass the restrictions." Jiang Fan nodded quietly. This aligned with his speculations. With Soul Shadow Demon Lord's greed, he hadn't attacked to seize the little black snake, so he must have been subject to some limitation. It turned out the issue lay with the little black snake. Only then was Jiang Fan without concern, knowing that before getting the treasures, Soul Shadow Demon Lord would not dare harm him. Therefore, he accepted the gourd and stepped forward without hesitation. As soon as he approached, the restriction in front of the crystal chamber exploded with a horrifying pressure of the heavenly human 5 declines. It was comparable to a strike from the Supreme on the throne. When sensing the presence of the little black snake, the restrictions calmed down, and Jiang Fan effortlessly passed through into the crystal chamber. Soul Shadow Demon Lord watched excitedly, shouting through the restrictions, "1 gourd will be enough." Jiang Fan stood cautiously in the corner, keeping his distance from the water pit, remotely controlling the gourd to submerge in the pool. As bubbling air bubbles rose, the gourd quickly filled. Soul Shadow Demon Lord was overjoyed, but the next moment his expression froze. Only to see Jiang Fan taking out a space storage device, waving his hand, and absorbing all the spiritual liquid from the pool. The large pool was left bare, not a drop remaining. Subsequently, Jiang Fan exited the crystal chamber and tossed the gourd to him. Soul Shadow Demon Lord looked at the small gourd in his hand, then at Jiang Fan's space storage device, slightly stammering. I... He thought he was greedy enough, daring to covet Black Dragon Venerable's treasures. But compared to Jiang Fan, he suddenly felt he was actually a decent person. Jiang Fan smoothly tucked the space storage device into his sleeve, gave him a glare, and said, "What are you looking at me for? Is there work done for free in this world? Go to the next place quickly." A person as greedy as Soul Shadow Demon Lord must be afraid of death. Yet he dared to take Black Dragon Venerable's treasures, so he certainly had some method to shield against Black Dragon Venerable's sensing. If later he could figure out this method, this space storage device of mysterious spiritual liquid would be his. If he couldn't, returning it wouldn't be too late. Soul Shadow Demon Lord nodded repeatedly, immediately leading Jiang Fan to the center of the crystal mine. An evidently older crystal chamber came into view. The crystal chamber's surroundings bore marks of age, as if existing for countless years. Soul Shadow Demon Lord's gaze was profound, filled with fiery anticipation, saying, "Most of the crystal chambers were opened by Black Dragon Venerable later. A very few existed from the beginning, and they contain heavenly materials and earthly treasures from the outer world, like the one you see before you." Jiang Fan was very curious. What were the heavenly materials and earthly treasures from the outer world like? He peered through the crystal chamber and was visibly puzzled. Inside grew a small tree about 10 feet high, covered with boots. Yes, that's right, boots. Fan was stunned for a while. He even suspected he was seeing things, but upon closer inspection, they really were shoes. Not just shoe-like, but actual shoes. The shoes not only had woven textures, but also exquisite embroideries. Moreover, each shoe was different. Some were red embroidered shoes, some were black leather boots, and others were baby shoes. Stranger still, each shoe had wrinkles and stains. They looked like they had been worn. If it weren't for each shoe having the unique stem of a fruit attached, and connected to the trunk by a slender stalk, Jiang Fan would find it hard to believe that these were plants. No, even so, he found it hard to believe. He rubbed his temples and said, "Are these shoes for real?" The Soul Shadow Demon Lord twitched his mouth and said, "Heavenly materials and earthly treasures from beyond the skies are indeed quite unique. I've heard that the Black Dragon Venerable used to eat heavenly materials and earthly treasures while cursing them." Jiang Fan felt a wave of dizziness. Looking at the colorful shoes, he said, "Are you sure the Black Dragon Venerable was reluctant to eat them? Isn't it more like he couldn't even bring himself to eat them?" The Soul Shadow Demon Lord touched his nose, coughed dryly, and said, "Anyway, let's grab them first. Don't be put off by the creepy look of these spirit fruits. They are quite extraordinary. Eating one can unleash different speeds based on the shoe size. Did you see that large black leather boot? The Black Dragon Venerable once said that after eating it, you could achieve speed comparable to a sage, crossing a great state in less than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea. Even the smallest baby shoe, after eating it, can attain heavenly human 2 declines speed. Help me gather more shoes." Sage's speed. Jiang Fan was shocked. A blazing excitement surged in his heart. But when he thought of having to eat shoes that others had worn, goosebumps rose all over his body. He held a little black snake and entered the crystal chamber. He casually picked a shoe and with a face full of disdain said, "Eat shoes. Not even a dog would eat that. Dogs wouldn't eat it, but rebellious Guy and the West Sea Crown Prince would." Jiang Fan turned his disdain into a smile, tucked the shoe into his space storage device. Then he quickly picked all the shoes, a total of 10, big and small. He kept the baby shoe and kept the rest. "Here you go." Jiang Fan tossed the baby shoe to the Soul Shadow Demon Lord. The latter was stunned and said, "You're giving me just this." Jiang Fan rolled his eyes at him. "If you don't want it, give it back." The Soul Shadow Demon Lord gritted his teeth. Could this guy swear that his insides were not black? However, thinking about killing Jiang Fan later, he held back his frustration and said, "A small shoe is fine. I'll take you to the place of the last treasure." He flickered to a near place. Jiang Fan followed, looked at the crystal chamber first, and rubbed his eyes to prevent them from popping out. However, this crystal chamber wasn't originally there. It was dug by the Black Dragon Venerable himself. Inside was a patch of extremely fertile black soil. It contained tremendous fertility, though not as miraculous as breath soil. It was far superior to common soil. Stuck in the black soil was a bare, 2-foot-long wooden stick, about as thick as a woman's wrist, just enough to hold in one grasp. At the end of the stick was a small purple bud. "What is this?" Jiang Fan muttered. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord's eyes glowed with excitement. "This is a piece of divine wood the Black Dragon Venerable somehow acquired. It's said to come from a divine tree thousands of years old. The Black Dragon Venerable nurtured it for a lifetime, and it only grew one bud. Thousands of years old." Jiang Fan clicked his tongue. The ancient tree in Hunyuan State only had a history of 1,000 years. If it lived for thousands of years, what realm must it have cultivated to? He asked, "Are you planning to take the wood and continue to nurture it?" The Soul Shadow Demon Lord scoffed. "Do I have such patience? This divine wood carries a power that suppresses the soul. A hit with it can cause soul-crushing pain, ignoring a person's cultivation. Ignoring a person's cultivation. Jiang Fan hesitated, unsure. What level of realm do you mean by ignoring cultivation? The Soul Shadow Demon Lord said. The Black Dragon Venerable once hit himself with it and cursed his mother for a day. As for a sage, never tried and no one dared to try. After all, testing it would mean dying. Jiang Fan took a deep breath. Even a great venerated heavenly human 5 declines would be in pain. At this level, the endurance for pain should far exceed ordinary people's. Even with bodily injuries, they might not frown. He couldn't quite imagine what it felt like when the divine wood struck. If only Wang Xianxia was here, he would have the most to say about it. This time, without being urged by the Soul Shadow Demon Lord, Jiang Fan, holding the little black snake, approached the restriction. He noted that the little black snake's color had faded significantly. It seemed that using it twice in succession had consumed it. This meant he couldn't open all the restrictions. What a pity. The Black Dragon Venerable's collection truly astounded him. Each item more extraordinary than the last, he wanted them all. With the restriction opened, Jiang Fan entered the crystal chamber and used telekinesis to pull out the divine wood. After confirming there were no problems, he dared to touch it with his hands. It felt cool in his hand, as light as a feather, and had no spiritual pressure. It was just like an ordinary piece of wood. He could hardly believe it could make a great venerate scream. Hey, you can't possibly claim this too, can you? The Soul Shadow Demon Lord anxiously said. Jiang Fan casually tucked it into the heavenly thunderstone and said, First help me find Ling Shu and Liu Li. Then I'll give them all to you, including the lotus seeds of the Black Lotus of Tribulation. Seeing Jiang Fan place it in the heavenly thunderstone, the Soul Shadow Demon Lord breathed a slight sigh of relief. The heavenly thunderstone was a natural space storage device, requiring no incantation to open. As long as he killed Jiang Fan next, the lotus seeds of the Black Lotus of Tribulation, a pool of spiritual liquid, the divine wood, and the Black Dragon Venerable's drop of venom would all be his. Jiang Fan's eyes narrowed slightly. He had taken 3 items, and the Soul Shadow Demon Lord was about to turn hostile. Within the crystal chamber, he didn't rush out but instead tried asking, Senior, you've taken so many of the Black Dragon Venerable's things. What if he catches you and I get exposed? Shouldn't we just put everything back? While speaking, he took out the divine wood and put it back. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord grew anxious upon seeing this and said, At this point, how can you still back out? Rest assured, the Black Dragon Venerable can't sense me. Jiang Fan frowned. You must give me a reason to be at ease, right? The Soul Shadow Demon Lord hesitated, reluctant to speak. Suddenly, the throne world shook violently. The voice of the Black Dragon Venerable penetrated through the world. You two hide well, don't come out. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord's expression changed and said, Not good. The Black Dragon Venerable and Golden Scale Venerate have fought their way into the cave. Quickly come out. Otherwise, it'll be too late. Jiang Fan's face changed slightly. Then he deeply gazed at the Soul Shadow Demon Lord, nodded, and said, Okay. Take me to find Ling Shu and Liu Li. He put away the divine wood, but then took out the Black Dragon Venerable's venom. Seeing this, the Soul Shadow Demon Lord's eyes narrowed, filled with both greed and fear. He said, Follow me. They are in a crystal chamber within the crystal mine. Additionally, I'll gift them a stroke of fortune. Fan did not dare to hope for any fortune. Finding the two smoothly was enough for him. He tightly held the poison, left the crystal chamber, and followed the Soul Shadow Demon Lord to the top of the crystal mine. Upon looking down, Jiang Fan discovered that the crystal mine held other secrets. In the center of the crystal mine was a square pit, about 100 feet long and wide. It looked as if it had been carved by human hands. Furthermore, its existence was extremely ancient, far older than the crystal chamber where the shoes were kept. Focusing his gaze, he vaguely made out 8 large, blurry words at the bottom of the pit. Jiang Fan tried to identify them, but each time his eyes settled on them, they would shake slightly, preventing him from seeing them clearly. Don't even think about seeing those clearly. Not even the Black Dragon Venerable has managed to see what they are over the years. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord noticed Jiang Fan's actions and chuckled. Jiang Fan was secretly surprised. What is the origin of this crystal mine? Suppressing the doubts in his heart, Jiang Fan decided not to look at those words anymore and asked, Where are they? The Soul Shadow Demon Lord pointed to the center of the pit. As Jiang Fan flew closer to look, he found that the pit had a crack running left to right, just large enough for a person to enter. Through the crack, Jiang Fan peered inside and his face changed wildly. He saw countless black ice blocks standing upright like coffins in the ground. Inside each black ice block, a person was frozen. Most had already turned into white bones, having died ages ago. A few corpses were still more or less intact, but their auras had long ceased. Inside two of the black ice blocks, Jiang Fan's pupils contracted as he saw familiar figures. Indeed, they were Ling Shu and Liu Li. Their eyes were tightly shut, their faces slightly pale. Though still alive, having been frozen for so long, they were extremely weak. Damn it! Jiang Fan was burning with anger. Yet he forcibly maintained his composure, refraining from rushing in. Instead, he turned his gaze to the Soul Shadow Demon Lord and asked, "How do you get in here?" The Soul Shadow Demon Lord replied without hesitation, "Just like those restrictions, holding the little black snake will let you in." Really? Jiang Fan looked at the black mysterious ice blocks, pondering secretly. This place is likely a dungeon used by the Black Dragon Venerable to imprison his enemies, designed not to prevent outsiders from entering, but to stop those inside from escaping. Would the setup be as simple as restrictions? The Soul Shadow Demon Lord intended to harm him. But what method did the Black Dragon Venerable set here? Just as he was thinking, a lazy tone from Hua Xin drifted from the Ghost Soul Crystal. "I say, getting so close to the Heavenly Human 5 declines Great Venerate's domain. Are you tired of living?" Domain. Jiang Fan's pupils were struck with shock. The most powerful aspect of the divinity transformation realm is undoubtedly their domain, far more dangerous than their usual attacks. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord actually deceived him, coaxing him to touch the Heavenly Human 5 declines domain. Suppressing the chill in his eyes, he looked down at Hua Xin and opened Mute Zen, transmitting his thought. "How much wine did you drink? You're actually helping me." This woman was eagerly hoping for Jiang Fan's early demise so she could be freed from the Ghost Soul Crystal. No matter how dangerous it was before, she never spoke up. This time she actually broke her habit and warned Jiang Fan. Hua Xin lazily said, "If you want to thank me, give me that Black Lotus of Tribulation seed." Jiang Fan chuckled, "Sorry, it's natural for captives to help their master." Hua Xin huffed, "The water of the Black Lotus of Tribulation is too deep, you can't handle it." Jiang Fan rolled his eyes. "Speak human language." Hua Xin, rarely serious, said, "The cause and effect here are too great, keep away." Jiang Fan was silent. A single lotus flower caused the collapse of the entire interlayer world. Moreover, when the 9 ancient saints seized the Hell Realm's earth, they overlooked the existence of the interlayer world. How could he not know the immense cause and effect within it? Fortunately, he had already banished the Black Lotus of Tribulation to the void. "No need for you to worry, I have my own plans," Jiang Fan said flatly. He already had a plan on how to deal with the lotus seed. Hua Xin pouted, "For you, getting a bit of advantage is harder than climbing the heavens. Just pray you're trapped by me forever. If I accidentally escape and regain my former strength, just you wait." "HMPH?" Jiang Fan rubbed his nose. Come to think of it, Hua Xin is a time bomb too. This one was not a simple character during her life. Maybe it's time to deal with her. Closing Mute Zen, Jiang Fan looked at the crack before him, discreetly taking out the ice butterfly given to him by the Ice Heart Venerate. As she described, once activated, it could shield him from one domain's influence. Usable only 3 times. Now was the time to use it. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord heard the constant rumbling overhead, growing more impatient, saying, "Quickly, once the Black Dragon Venerable is free, we're all finished." Jiang Fan secretly activated the ice butterfly, saying, "Right away." With that said, he dove into the crack. Just as he touched the crack, an invisible and horrendous wave spread outward. Jiang Fan instantly felt a cold consciousness surge into his soul, attempting to control it. This domain was not unfamiliar to him. Similar to the Golden Snake Saint Mother's domain, it aimed to control puppets. Just as that cold consciousness threatened to invade his soul, an even colder wave emanated from the ice butterfly, sweeping over his soul. The invading domain of the Black Dragon Venerable immediately receded like a tide. Jiang Fan quietly breathed a sigh of relief, but he did not show that he had broken free from the domain, instead pretending to be dazed, as if trapped in the puppet state. "Ha ha ha," the Soul Shadow Demon Lord finally couldn't hold back his laughter. "Wang Qingxiao, oh Wang Qingxiao. As cunning as you are, didn't you still fall into my trap?" He came before Jiang Fan, looking at the tightly gripped little black snake in his hand, and mocked, "Learn your lesson. The hardest thing to discern in the world is not lies, but 9 truths and 1 falsehood. What I told you earlier was true, but this time it's false. and it's what will cost you your life. Nobody can enter this prison, not even with a key, otherwise they'll be controlled by the domain inside and become a puppet. With a grin, he snatched the poison from Jiang Fan's hand. His face bore an even wider smile. He'd finally gotten it. Though in comparison, other things were even more tempting. He took the heavenly thunder stone from Jiang Fan's chest with a thought, divine wood, and a pile of colorful shoes appeared before him. Ha ha ha, it's all mine. However, to secretly take these things away from the Black Dragon Venerable's perception, one thing is still missing. With a smile, he found the space storage device on Jiang Fan. Inside was that clear and transparent mysterious liquid. He smiled and said, "Boy, I know you wanted to trick me and find out how I could shield the Black Dragon Venerable's perception. The answer lies in the spiritual liquid. This is the supreme spiritual liquid that can cleanse the aura of all things. Removing the aura of these items, even placing them before the Black Dragon Venerable, he would not sense them." Jiang Fan was slightly enlightened in his heart. No wonder the Soul Shadow Demon Lord wanted to grab this mysterious liquid first. It's because it washes away aura. If that's the case, with so much liquid at hand, wouldn't gathering the Venerate's items be utterly effortless in the future? Rumble, the throne space shook once again, and the Soul Shadow Demon Lord staggered, nearly stumbling. His expression changed, realizing he could delay no longer. Without bothering to inventory the items inside the heavenly thunder stone, he directly stored it away. Finally, he looked at Jiang Fan, a cold smile on his face. "It's time to say goodbye, Wang Chengxiao. Being buried with the treasures of the Black Dragon Venerable is the mercy I'm granting you. Go now." He raised his palm, casually smacking towards Jiang Fan's heavenly spirit cover. For someone at the nascent soul realm, a casual strike from the divinity transformation realm was as overwhelming as heavenly might, easily capable of crushing them to dust. However, just as he made his move, suddenly out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of a faint, mocking curve at the corner of Jiang Fan's mouth. His heart seemed to skip a beat, a sense of impending doom rising within him. Before he could react, the heavenly thunder stone he had taken suddenly erupted with a long-brewing three-color divine rainbow. It was right in front of him, and the outbreak came so suddenly. It didn't give the Soul Shadow Demon Lord any chance to dodge. CHH, the sound of flesh and bone being severed rang clearly in the Soul Shadow Demon Lord's ears. Only after 3 full breaths did a faint red bloodline appear in the center of his forehead. To be precise, it was a bloodline that centered on his forehead and traversed his entire body. The three-colored divine rainbow had split him in two from bottom to top. Drip. Streams of fresh blood flowed out, cascading to the ground like a stream. Only then did the Soul Shadow Demon Lord gradually feel the coldness inside his body, followed by the excruciating pain of his flesh being torn apart. He lowered his head, staring blankly at the bloodline splitting open on his chest, confusion flashing in his eyes. He seemed still unable to accept the reality of his body's destruction. Slowly, he lifted his gaze, the surging blood streaming into his eyes. In his blurred vision, he saw Jiang Fan move, casually reclaiming the heavenly thunder stone from his hand, taking back the space storage device, and also taking away the treasures on him. The Soul Shadow Demon Lord's voice was hoarse like a broken bellows. "You have a magic artifact to resist the Venerable's domain." Jiang Fan nodded his chin. "What else?" The Soul Shadow Demon Lord laughed, a laugh filled with despair. "I actually got capsized in a ditch. No, I was fooled by the same person twice." Previously, during the memory erasure, Jiang Fan deceived him. He had believed it. Now, with the Black Dragon Venerable's domain activated, Jiang Fan deceived him again. He had believed it again, twice stumbling at the hands of the same person. He died without regret. "How did you know I was certain to take your heavenly thunder stone? What if I hadn't taken it? Wouldn't your plan have failed?" The Soul Shadow Demon Lord asked with a hint of unwillingness. If the heavenly thunder stone hadn't been on him but kept at a distance, he, with his strength, could have easily dodged when the 3 spirit swords activated. Jiang Fan raised his hand, a purple thunder into his hand, and decisively slashed at his neck. To kill, one must decapitate. That's his habit. With a puff, the head flew skyward, splitting into 2 in midair. Only then did he speak slowly, "Because you're greedy enough." With so many treasures in the heavenly thunder stone, it made no sense for the Soul Shadow Demon Lord to let it go. And as long as he kept it with him, Jiang Fan had the power to deliver a fatal strike. The current 3-colored divine rainbow comprised 3 top-grade spirit swords possessing artifact spirits. Once activated, No escape from heavenly person decline. Clang, the headless body finally split apart along the bloodline, each half falling to the ground. A transparent soul frantically scrambled out, desperately trying to flee into the void. What greeted him was a pitch-black stick with a small, tender sprout at the end. Bang! The stick struck the soul shadow demon lord's soul. As if stung by thousands of bees, he let out a heart-wrenching scream. The soul body struggled for a moment, and then its eyes rolled back, fainting on the spot. Jiang Fan glanced at the stick in his hand, frowning slightly. Didn't you say one strike would make him wish to be dead? Why did he faint? Could it be that the soul shadow demon lord had been too injured previously, causing his soul to weaken? He pondered, and then extracted the soul of the divine weapon state venerable from the ghost soul crystal. Bear with it and let me test the power of this stick. The soul of the divine weapon state venerable trembled uncontrollably, though he couldn't see the situation outside. The screams of the soul shadow demon lord reached his ears. To cause a venerable soul such pain, it must be a hellish level of agony. He quickly raised his little hands in front of him, hastily pleading, "No, I still have use, don't hit me." Jiang Fan rolled his eyes at him. "To think you're a divinity transformation venerable, have some backbone, will you? Grit your teeth and take a hit from me." The divine weapon state venerable grumbled inwardly. "Getting hit isn't you. Of course you'd have backbone." To escape a beating, he hurriedly looked around and upon discovering the gigantic purple crystal mine at his feet, quickly spoke. "Wait, don't you want the magic artifact below?" Magic artifact. Jiang Fan's stick paused in the air, looking at the giant, purple, snake-shaped crystal mine with a face full of astonishment. "You say this is a magic artifact?" This crystal mine extended for miles. "Is there such a large magic artifact?" The divine weapon state venerable, seeing the stick put down, wiped the virtual sweat off his forehead, affirming, "I'm no lesser than a top 10 artifact refining master in Central Earth. How could I mistake a magic artifact? This indeed is a human-made magic artifact. It's just that its size is quite large, and its material isn't from our Central Earth." Jiang Fan, full of curiosity, pointed to the square depression beneath his feet. "Can you see what the 8 words at the bottom say?" The divine weapon state venerable just gave it a glance, and his soul was greatly shaken, hastily averting his gaze. A look of horror on his face. "What are these words? Why can't I even look at them?" He studied the depression with a frightful look. After a moment of analysis, he said, "This depression is likely meant to accommodate something. To be precise, this entire crystal mine is just for placing a heavy treasure, like a pen holder meant to hold a calligraphy brush." Ah. Jiang Fan was flabbergasted. Such a grand magic artifact is merely an accessory. This crystal mine itself is a heavy treasure. What it held, Jiang Fan didn't even dare to imagine. After contemplating for a moment, the divine weapon state venerable suddenly realized, this depression is meant to hold a kind of seal. The 8 blurred words at the bottom are the engravings of that seal, pressed in over countless years. Jiang Fan was startled. Just the imprint of the seal's words was something even the Black Dragon Venerable couldn't directly gaze upon. What kind of unrivaled divine object was the seal itself? Could it be a complete world artifact? After pondering for a moment, he shook his head. Though this crystal mine was a heavy treasure, it couldn't be taken away. The spiritual liquid he obtained, capable of cleansing any aura, was insufficient to erase the aura of such a vast crystal mine. If he took it, the Black Dragon Venerable would undoubtedly hunt him to the ends of the earth. For now, he'd better hurry and rescue Liu Li and Ling Shu. He collected the souls of the divine weapon state venerable and the soul shadow demon lord, then leaped into the prison. Gazing upon the 2 sealed girls encased in black mysterious ice, one on the left and one on the right, he felt both heartache and anger. "You 2 silly girls, you're too reckless. Without finding out the situation first, you rushed right into the hands of the Black Dragon Venerable." He lightly tapped the mysterious ice, attempting to break it apart. But a wave of black ripples reverberated out, forcing Jiang Fan to continuously retreat. More astonishingly, as the ripples entered his body, he suddenly felt a trance, his consciousness sinking. He showed signs of entering madness.